Good evening. This is Jupiter Exile. I'm going to be streaming tonight with a bit of pizzazz, and I'm going to take a moment to get ready. Did I click something? It's not what I wanted. Something clicked through. Let me finish my preparations. I'll cut this out when I post the VODs to YouTube later. Alright. Good evening. This is... who is this again? For now, it's Jupiter Exile, but I've been thinking of changing my moniker sometime soon. So, if we find something intriguing here among the stars, perhaps we'll adopt it as our new nomenclature. This is not the first time I have journeyed. We're going once more. I've put about 30 hours into this experience previously, but today we'll be starting anew. And we'll be going the legacy approach. Let's see. No aiming assistance. Default sounds good to me. I don't need to make it harder, but I don't need it easier either. Log of Her Majesty's locomotive, the Orphean, March 14th, 1905. Our expedition to the domains of the dead has been eventful. The Orphean is damaged, and in grievous need of repairs and supplies. We are returning in haste to the Reach, where I hope to make port at New Winchester. May God be with us, for 1,000 deaths wait in the sky. Final entry of Captain Amelia Charity Whitlock, DCM, written shortly before her death. I didn't get the category correct, did I? Let me fix that. There we go. Let's begin. You've returned to the Reach, an untamed sunless span of the heavens, London's new frontier, a celestial garden run wild. Your journey back from the Blue Kingdom was tumultuous. The locomotive is badly damaged and Captain Whitlock badly wounded. As first officer, the crew looks to you. The nearest station is New Winchester. Can you get the Orphean there safely? Much to the relief of your stokers, you find a barrel of fuel among the detritus. Erectorate's here, less fortunate even than you. I'm gonna skip through a couple of simple things. Her interior is cold, unlit, and whistles with wind. Your party's lamps spread buttery light over the narrow, paneled passages. You make your way toward the hold, stepping over bodies crumpled in the corridor. Unfortunately, your way is blocked. A bulkhead has been mangled inward by a well-aimed barrage. Now we consider firstly who we are. Are we a man of irons or of cunning? I'd say a cunning man. The rest of the boarding party follow you without enthusiasm. You recall the first time you climbed outside an engine, helping the captain fix a leak in an exterior pipe. The wind had shrieked, buffeting at you. You asked the captain what would happen if you slipped. You fall, she answered tersely. But where to? You asked. She looked down, then up, then back. The sky's depth spiraled all about you. Away, she said, and you heard her fear. Back in the present, you tumble back into the Ozymandias through a shattered window. Your party's spilling after you, glad to be back inside. Your companions work quickly. The Ozymandias hull has begun to creak. Your actions on board may have compromised its integrity. You find enough food and gear to restock your supplies and enough spare parts to make necessary repairs to the Orpheon. The food will need to be thoroughly thawed, of course, but you've eaten worse in the skies. "Oh!" cries one of your party, prying the lid off a long crate. It holds a cannon still nestled in straw. Another crewman pulls a battered bird cage from a pile of ruined cargo. Within the cage, something winged and furred opens a sullen eye. You examine your finds. I see. We will acquire the cannon. Cotterill and Hather Sage Jerusalem fire single shells to a good range, more or less accurately. You order 2 of your party to get it back to your vessel and fit it immediately. Ah. You can claim both this and the canyon. Good. I misread that as cannot. The bat treats its rescue as an inconvenience and immediately begins haggling over pay. You offer to put it back in its damn cage and leave it on the Ozymandias, at which point it becomes more polite. You doubt it will last. Might find more fuel there. We're a cautious person. You lead your boarding party back to your vessel. Unshackling her from the buckling Ozymandias, you stoke your engines and steam away, restocked, repaired, and rearmed. The crew give a ragged cheer. We can send our scout at the cost of supplies. I don't think it immediately necessary. We'll have to blast this away. The walls of the captain's cabin are lined with a hodgepodge of curios from across the sky. Captain Whitlock lies in bed. Black marks cover her skin like a monstrous brand. When she coughs, coils of acrid smoke pour from her lungs. I think I know what's happened. Her mouth is blistered from the blue fires that dance on her tongue. Her hand grips your arm. Her skin is hot as a kettle. Made arrangements. The Orpheon will be yours. Her voice is just a rasp of burned meat breath. Promise. She breaks off to scream a word in a language that was not made for human mouths. When she resumes speaking English, she is weaker. Her request little more than a gasp. Promise me one last service. Promise. Whatever it is, I will see it done. She sinks back, relieved. All in my will, she gasps. Be a better. She breaks off as the sigils burned into her bones flare, glowing cherry red through her flesh and skin. Better captain than I. The effort exhausts her. She sinks back into the scorched pillows and a twisting, frantic fever. She has read, spoken, been imprinted with the correspondence, the language of gods. It burns men to know it because light, sunlight, is truth. To bear the truth upon you is a brand. I will take my leave. New Winchester is further than you'd like, and the captain hasn't long left. Mustn't overheat. I'll have to blast this out of the way a bit. These obstacles. We have some foe across the way. There we go. You prepare to board the buckled wreckage, poised to plunder the plunderers. Behind you, someone is humming a song of victory. 49 sovereigns of ill-got gains. Now may be the right time to scout. Open your chart. Chart is on tab. A port. New Winchester, we've arrived. You coast into the bustle, din, soot, and the steam of Wolsey Station. It is clogged with other engines, scrappy mining locomotives from Lustrum Way, weathered explorers gleaming with frost, sleek company vessels with bright brass fittings. No sooner have you pulled into the sidings than a brusque station master bustles over. You request to come aboard. "I must speak with your captain," he insists, brandishing a ledger. "Usual formalities." Orphean's doctor has appeared at my shoulder. His face is solemn. His hat is in his hands. He lowers his eyes. The crew exchange bleak, wordless looks. The Orphean itself feels suddenly more empty. The station master looks confused. You inform him that unfortunately, Captain Whitlock has just passed. "Ah," he says neutrally. "Sorry to hear that. Very sad, very sad." He waits for what he considers an appropriate minute and a half before continuing. "Alas, even amidst tragedy, the cogs of bureaucracy must turn. If Captain Whitlock is deceased, the station authority require their answers from the first officer." He dons a set of spectacles and locates his pins. "It will be relatively painless. Name, background, purpose of visit, etc. Shall we begin?" Who were we? I would say, to begin, we are an academic. We'll begin with high mirrors, the skill of investigating and deducing. Perhaps you were educated at one of the esteemed colleges of Benthic or Somerset. Perhaps you taught yourself through trial and error and grit. But what was your field of study? You studied either the practical sciences, the language of the heavens, or literature. I think in this case, with regards to this captain, we studied literature. Our ambition will be wealth. We are seeking something simpler. You want a comfortable retirement, and by comfortable, you mean extravagant. Many have made their fortunes out among the stars, many more have failed, broken and lost in the drifting night. Will you be different? Wealth is a good baseline for a captain. In this game and in the preceding game, Sunless Seas. You will be Captain Mercury. This is how we're going to track our progress through the stars with an iterating series of names. Let's begin. Three weeks have passed. This morning, Captain Whitlock received a simple memorial service. Her body was consigned to an Acropolis train bound for the Serene Mausoleum. Now you sit with a handful of her relatives in the threadbare offices of her solicitors. A methodical notary is reading the will. The captain was wealthy once, but squandered her capital on mysterious expenses before her expedition to the Blue Kingdom. In a final codicil, the notary announces, Captain Whitlock confirmed that the possession of the Orphean was to pass to its first officer. He peers at you with dry, gray eyes. This includes a certain black box contained in the Orphean's hold. Captain Whitlock's final request was that, at a time of your choosing, you transport said box to an address in London. He hands you an address card and deposit it there. You are not to look inside. She gave no explanation. And that's it. You're captain now. The Orphean is yours. You have been bequeathed a large black box which once belonged to Captain Whitlock, and 100 sovereigns. Okay. We'll need to buy more supplies at Victoria Market. Specialize in test driving, but I'm looking for something quieter. The driver indicates a crashed engine still smoking. Like that, without the screaming. Ah, what harm can it do? 20 sovereigns to hire him on. Officers are very useful. We'll want a full list, if possible. Excuse me, Captain. A woman pushes through the crowds toward you. She is short and square-shouldered, in a neat black suit and polished shoes. She shows you the case of her pocket watch. It is embossed with the crown and hourglass of London's Horological Office, the body responsible for ensuring time is consistent across the Empire. I'm hoping to book passage to Port Prosper, she says, slipping the watch away. I can, of course, pay. Very good. Let's do it. Port Prosper it is. Transporting a fastidious inspector to Port Prosper. Prosper lies to the north-northeast of New Winchester. North-northeast. Very good. There's no proper north or south in Skye, but Londoners value consistency. I see. I will require the governor's manor, which will begin at a cost of 5,000 sovereigns. Very good. That's my goal. An investigation of the black box. Let's see. We certainly will not be selling the box. There are individuals we may be able to consult with if we have certain affiliations. Captain Whitlock had it brought on board just before your ill-fated expedition to the Blue Kingdom. It was empty then. You know because you saw the lid and the box carried on board separately and assembled in the hold. It's not empty now. It is sealed and even heavier than before. But you left the Blue Kingdom shortly after the box was delivered and made no stops on the way. So whatever is inside the box now, Captain Whitlock found in the Blue Kingdom. The box has the dimensions of a sarcophagus plundered from the tomb of some forgotten prince of Egypt. There are no carvings or inscriptions on it. The join where the lid meets the body is too thin to admit even a knife blade. There are no holes by which light or air might find their way in. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. This is a very intriguing game. I hope to have you on board for a lot of this. The recess with a keyhole, though, as far as you can determine, that is a more recent addition to the box. The stone has been drilled and chiseled away to create space for a modern metal lock. A modern metal lock. Interesting. Well, we'll return to ponder this box later. Spend a bit of time exploring the city. We have time. Ah, we can learn about trading. Very good. That's important. A porter at the station advises you to visit the nearby pub, the Promise of Days, and talk to the seasoned captains there. They keep their ears to the ground. They'll know about an opportunity or two. Let's visit the Promise of Days. Old pistons gleam on the walls. The shelves are crowded with mementos from across the sky. Clientele raise their voices to be heard above the comforting clamor of the adjacent engine yards. You may find helpful advice here. Introduction to the captains. 4 are gathered at their usual table. The masked citizen, a libertine, polymath, and pioneer of the neo-nocturnal artistic school. The bedeviled didact, a scholar haunted by his discoveries. The plucky baroness, explorer, collector, philatelist, and spatchcocker Meg, who hunts monsters. Of course, everything out here is jolly dangerous, says the baroness. Few risk the skies, so news of distant ports is valuable. Collect port reports from the places you visit and deliver them to Victory Hall or Company House. The more you turn in at once, the more they'll pay. Look for opportunities on the way, advises the masked citizen. passengers who want transport, rich men in need of bloody work, etc. Portion through trade, bargains, and prospects. Ah, the didact says, fiddling with his innumerable talismans, an essential topic. Meg slides you a stool, and the captains shuffle around to make room. The masked citizen buys you a drink of their own invention. It is violet and foggy. The plucky baroness gives you a brisk, encouraging grin. Ask away. Prospects. The biggest port in each region has a bazaar where captains do business. There, you'll learn of people at other ports prepared to pay over the odds for a commodity. When you accept the commission for a prospect, it's yours. No other captain will pursue it. It's all fantastically civilized. You'll have to source the goods yourself, of course, says the bedeviled didact. Find a port that exports them. The client will want a certain amount. You can supply some or all of it. But if you provide all they need, they may furnish you with an additional reward. You can have up to 4 prospects at once. Do you know of a good prospect? The host at Magdalene's needs an urgent delivery of seeds, paying a pretty penny too. If I were you, I'd get to the bazaar straight away, put my mark against it. Broker in Port Avalon is selling cheap seeds. Chirpy chap, God knows why. His face looks like it's been pushed through a mangle. An opportunity. Port Avon lies to the west-northwest of New Winchester, and Magdalene lies to the north-northwest of New Winchester. So we could go Port Avon to Magdalene's to another location that I believe we were told about earlier. Okay, so among the shops at the bazaar, we can take the seeds from Magdalene's prospect, claimed. Crockery for Port Avon. Is there crockery on sale? No, we don't have access to crockery here. So we'd best not promise to bring any along, I don't think. We can hold up to 4, actually. 5 crates of nostalgic crockery? Well, let's try and keep our eye out for some crockery, then. It'll be a lot for us to buy a new engine. That's for later. We'll need fuel. I see. Our hold space comes out to 12. So let's buy just a bit of fuel and see what that gets us. We'll need to save up for a good number of these things. For now, we'll have to make do with our current Jerusalem. We do not have many sovereigns to spare. And it seems there's not much more for us to learn here. We have 8 out of 10 for our crew, 4 fuel, 4 supplies, a perfectly intact hull for now, and no terror. Let's go. This is our map. It'll be filled in as we go. So, we're seeking to go towards Port Avon in the west-northwest direction. I believe it's F to use the Bat Scout. Which uses up a bit of supply as we go. It has found something. That would be... okay, I see. We've got Victory Hall and something else. Those won't matter to us just yet. We'll loop back around to that once we have some port reports from places we visited. But for now, let's get visiting. We need to find things. There are chunks of things floating around the sky. The reach here is wilderness by and large. Old stones and forgotten ruins lie tumbled across the sky. Where are we, I wonder? There's a port to the north. Today, the sky is cool and blue as ice in a glass. Oh yes, you can accrue terror from various things. Monsters or just weird stuff. Ah, we've learned something from our experiences. So then, we take on a facet. An academic, student of the sciences, the arts, of philosophy. Yes, student, literature. See, we take on a new facet to our character. This is gaining some aspect, some twist in our fate, adding to our history and our present. Were we scarred? An interlude in red and gold. Did we go mad once? A masterpiece. Years of sleepless nights, setbacks, and research into one great work. We want to keep our eye out for affiliations. A moment of inspiration is something that is consumable after a sense. It's a notion of something we could put to use. A masterpiece, then. Let's further our affiliation with the Academe. We created a marvel of engineering. Very good. They said it was a waste of time, said it was impossible. You proved them wrong. What were the fruits of your labor? Picking up these aspects is how we level up, and it gives us kind of multiple things at once. We gain in our core attributes, of which there are 4, and we can also gain affiliation, but sometimes also resources. A moment of inspiration is something that we could use later in some sort of crafting or the accomplishing of a story. We can gain up to 20 facets if we manage to become a level 20 character. Our attributes are shown in the top right. They are hearts, veils, irons, and mirrors. Hearts relates to both constitution and morale. It can be thought of as being both constitution and charisma, so to speak. That can enable us to overcome hardships or give grandiose speeches. Veils relates to our ability to deceive and sneak. Irons relates to our capabilities in direct conflict and brash things. And then mirrors is our capability of seeing, understanding, investigating, and interpreting. Our knowledge and our perception. We dock now at Port Avon. Behold, a ruin of giants. Oh, I need to hide this. Gargantuan blocks jigsawed together, furred with moss and whispering with orchards. A bucolic village nestles among them. Smoke coils daintily from the chimneys. A leisurely game of cricket unfolds on the village green. Disembark. An oily-faced, black-haired girl waves your locomotive into position. Welcome to Port Avon, she calls, as you disembark. A rich knot of scents greets you. Leaves and wood smoke, enriched by an infrequent but pungent intrusion of goat. Port Avon welcomes new visitors, but your novelty will wear off the more time you spend there. When you visit in the future, you may need to bring something to keep them friendly. We have 3 welcome. This kind of describes how much interaction we can take here. We're going to start, of course, by gathering a port report. Were it not for talk of smugglers and sky beasts, you could easily confuse this place for a village on the world you left behind. It's quite peaceful here, apart from some fuss over a newspaper delivery. The villagers frown and change the subject when you ask about it. Port reports are useful. They're one of our most basic kind of currencies. We can use gossip or tea to increase our welcome at Port Avon and do more, so to speak. There are other places here we can visit momentarily, but first, let's see. They want crockery, don't have it. There's a bargain on seeds, and we require seeds, but how many did we need? Let me check the journal. Was it this? 3 sacks of verdant seeds. Sell them in the bazaar at Port Avon. We have the hold space for this. 10 out of 12 in the hold. Very good. I think that that is not the only spot where we can see those. Officers, inventory. Warrants the train. We've got a passenger. Right, this one is going to Port Prosper, which was in the northeast. Our affiliations, events. Reach, don't worry about that. Ah, yes, our soul is a kind of quality. Yes, our soul is a little bit cold right now. That can matter. Put all that away for now. We're not going to provide them crockery anytime soon. We'll probably hold out on that for a while. They do have fuel and supplies available here. We can also purchase jumbles of undistinguished souls, but they're a little pricey. We've only got 64 to spare. I'll buy just a little bit more supply. That. Any stories in the village green? Someone has grafted brass wheels to the carcass of an old armoire and impaled its top with a jaunty damasked umbrella. He beckons you with a gloved hand. A rare vintage, unheard of and unseen since London. This merits investigation. Come here, come close and listen, you effervescent thing. I have a story. An associate of mine, he once gave me a sip of it. One golden drop to place under my tongue, and my life was changed. A carnivorous pleasure steeps in his voice as he speaks. I went back to the store immediately, of course, but the price was too much. Yes, there are various qualities that afflict our soul. It seems that souls are of a particular interest to devils, although it seems that the soulless aren't different from other people in a way that can be commonly perceived. It's a very peculiar series of investigations. And then eventually the dreams drained away, and now I'm here serving wine to drunks. His laughter is black and bitter, but the auroral sommelier gives you the address, nonetheless, just in case. If you decide to risk the same grief, savor it for me. Hesperidian cider. Hesperidian cider, I believe, is the most, or at least one of the most valuable commodities that was available in the old Echo Bazaar. We're not liable to acquire any anytime soon. We'll stop in briefly at the Nowhere Inn. Port Avon's first public house stands amidst a nodding copse of apple trees. Inside, brass gleams cozily on the beams, window latches, doorknobs, and other fittings retrieved from the first locomotives that carried people here. A great polished wheel hangs on one wall. You could read some speculative fiction. You could speak to a short-sighted cryptozoologist. Interesting. We can intercede in a mushroomy matter. A Blemmigan Voyager. We can head upstairs. Somerset Hunting Club has exclusive rights to the rooms above the pub as well as its finest brandies. What does the Hunting Club require for membership? I'll request membership in the club. A stout veteran gives you a polite once-over. I suppose we could countenance for an application. Of course, membership is not a matter of mere money. No, no! He directs your attention to the trophies. Most are old and musty. Neath creatures, deer, foxes, and a bear, all hunted in the members' now long-distant youth. Perhaps if you could help decorate our walls with some impressive local fauna, we can talk matters of first payment and then membership. Of course, we could hunt the beasties ourselves, and we will, by thunder we will, but the fire is so warm, and there's port left in the bottle. Canton Carey Trophy, Chorister Trophy, and a Scribe Spinster Trophy. Interesting. Well, we'll keep that all in mind. But not for now. Other options in the inn? Pub is out of scrumpy. The barman blames a creature, a cross between a mushroom and a jellyfish. It sways in its seat at the bar. Who does this creature belong to? Bellows a man, fuchsia with rage. The Blemmigan he points at is a grizzled member of its species, most of whom were left behind in the Neath. The fuchsia gentleman roars in fury. Between bellows, the truth emerges. The Blemmigan is no one's pet, and far worse, no one will admit responsibility for its tab. The Blemmigan is unconcerned with the tumult. It nods its cap at you with grim respect, then flops a tendril into a mug of stout. It stares bleakly through the window. It would cost 50 sovereigns to settle its tab. We'll just move on from that for now. Let's see. As for the short-sighted cryptozoologist, a tiny figure weighed down by two backpacks and a heavy duffel coat looks through thick glasses at her map and then up at you. Excuse me, I need passage. I don't suppose you could help me. I'm on the trail of unusual beasts. I can pay you for your time. Where does she need to go? Hybris. Ooh, that's a bad idea. They say there's a colony of singing blemigans there. You know, the little mushrooms with teeth. I'm a huge fan of their poetry. I'd love to hear what they sing about. Interesting. Alright. Well, we've got her aboard now. Anything to do in the Cyclopean ruins? Not one of the looming stones is quite square, yet they all slot together immaculately. Actions here will wear out your welcome. Let's see. Port Avon's chief export is souls, quarried from vast stores entombed within the ruins. You'll need assistance, luck, and discretion. The locals would not approve. Or we can enjoy the picturesque surroundings. Success will gain you a vision of the heavens. We are only able to do this when all is well. The nocturnal excavation requires crew, which seems to imply that it's risky. We only have about 30% chance of success in either case. Both results, I'm certain, do something a little bad. I'm going to try and enjoy the surroundings. Oh, we failed. The milky mist billows across the sky. Stones pour cold shadows over you. They loom like stooping giants. You are tiny, so fleeting, so easily squashed. You hurry from their choking immensity, seeking the smaller, familiar shapes of cottages, of trees, of locals leaning on their painted gates. We have gained a tale of terror. I felt as though this look was appropriate, and it has the added benefit of shielding me somewhat from the lights coming in at my face, prevents my eyes from drying out. So I may do this a bit more often. I have plenty of costumes, after all. I think this perhaps is enough of Port Avon. Let's move along. Oh, don't crash. Don't collide. A few little bumps and things won't destroy our locomotive, but it will aggregate some damage. Now, I believe we should be going in kind of a clockwise motion throughout the sky, so let's continue. I do quite appreciate these glasses. I picked them up a while ago to play a vampire character in a tabletop that never took off. I wasn't too broken up about it. I was uncertain about the table chemistry. And I don't regret having the prop either way. I wonder, as we travel along, might I be able to speak to the incautious driver? The driver has no tolerance for uneventful voyages. When not on duty, they stare through the stained glass windows as if willing excitement to ride in on a wave of disaster. When they take the wheel, the rest of the crew grip the nearest available supports and whisper quiet prayers to various gods. I'll have to gamble with him to learn more about him, I think. We'll need some sovereigns for that. Put it on the to-do list for now. Let's see. Is this direction likely to bear fruit, or will we just be cartering off into the middle of nowhere? Something's been found over there. Difficult to tell. Well, let's see if we can make our way around this large sort of thing. It's bright out here. Well, bright and dark, I suppose. Foggy. It seems maybe that we would be approaching Hybris with this direction, I think. There's pollen in the... I think this might be pollen in the air. Let's see, cutting around the ridge. Oh, a bit of current. The peacock wind buffets the engine. The incautious driver whistles a jolly tune. Well, can we just ride that wind for a bit? Just a little bit. Almost got blown into the rocks. I think the crew may not have appreciated. We've accrued just a little bit of terror. Not enough to accrue, not enough to have nightmares over it. Progress, perhaps, towards something or other. Ah, a wreck. Stopped clock. The fastidious inspector approaches you in the galley. Captain, good day. I noticed your ship's clock is stopped. Perhaps you'd permit me to repair it. She has a little case of tools and a hopeful expression. I would prefer things to be right more than twice a day. She gives a grateful flicker of a smile and sets to work. Soon she has the back off the clock and has spread tiny cogs across the galley table. Obscure horological tools gleam brassily among them. Everything has a place. I appreciate the opportunity to keep myself busy. Staring too long at the stars is harmful to the temperament. Interesting. What are the duties of an agent of the horological office? She sniffs. It is of fundamental importance that 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in one corner of the Empire occurs at the same time as 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in the opposite corner. How is an empire to function if it can't agree what day it is? Unfortunately, the process is complicated by the fact that time is less reliable than it was. The hours trade has seen to that. This is something I know about that I'm glad to share. We'll ask about the hours trade. You've heard the Empress awards her favorites with gifts of years to extend their lives, and that you can become rich, mining for hours to satisfy London's hunger for them. Oh, hours have more uses than that. We use them to increase the efficiency of work worlds, to speed journeys to different regions, to resolve overcrowding in prisons. It does make my life more difficult when time knots and stretches like wool on the loom. More difficult, but more vital. Her Majesty seized a great trove of them when she assumed the throne of hours, and now even more have been found in the Reach. Miners dig them from the ground. She looks momentarily wistful. I hope someday to retire with a modest pension of years myself, to prolong the better part of my retirement. Interesting. A compliment. Thank you, she says, a small, embarrassed silence. It's possible the inspector is pleased. It's rather hard to tell. Back to work, then. I don't want to drag on. And to you, Captain, I think I shall make a cup of tea. We've got a wreck, the burning bridge. The wreck gleams with frost. Its windows are dark, its engine silent. Perhaps something of value lies within. Force open the doors to the hold. Success. Your driver holds your locomotive steady alongside the wreck as your crew take turns at the pry bar. Eventually, the bay doors are sufficiently parted to permit the spryest of you to squeeze through. Soon they return, and what's this they've found? A cache of curiosities. Murgatroyd's fungal crackers, a rare treat in the sky. Newer skyfarers tend to disdain them as revolting and abominations under the Lord. The taste is not approved with age, but the vintage provides a certain smug satisfaction. Fungal crackers, referred to by some as an abomination. Let's see. How are we holding? Time to scout, I think. What's our next heading? Something else around the bend? Perhaps another wreck. I think this might be Magdalene's. The edge of the wilderness, surveilled by the vigilant watchtowers of New Winchester. Cautious driver, is that? No, it's slightly different from the one I crashed into. Oh, just a little bit. There we go. A homestead. Settlers who live so far beyond the edge of civilization relish the hardships of solitude. They will fiercely defend their small territories, but occasionally welcome company and trade. Interesting. You set down beside a pockmarked homestead with a holdy roof and cracked windows. Its inhabitants have struggled through a bad year, and will find the next one worse. Well, trade some supplies for bronzewood. Bronzewood ought to be useful. They are timberers sawing twigs from the great bronzewoods of the Reach and selling them to passing traders. They offer several gleaming logs in return for your supplies. Excellent. Okay. Now, coming from Port Avon, I think we are now north of Winchester, directly. There should be something over here for us to find, I think, or perhaps down here. Let's see. Considering our journal and some of the opportunities we need to be at, this trading opportunity. Port Avon is to the west-northwest. Magdalene is to the north-northwest. So Magdalene should be slightly west of our current heading. I believe it would then be to the south, necessarily, in about this approximate direction. Or it's further north, perhaps substantially. Direction is not wholly informative. Let's see, Barcelar's Folly. Every point of interest, every landmark we discover, is more experience for our captain. We have here Marauders. Or maybe it's just an insane map. Star map. Interesting. He's got a spread gun. I might be able to shake him. Looks like it. Probably a little tougher than a standard Reach Marauder. And here we have... Is that a Reach Marauder? A Tackety? I'm not sure. Clamor of New Winchester can be heard on the wind. A scout. He's snagged on something. We'll call that a good thing. Nothing to report. Okay. We might have made a less than useful pass around, because this is just going to bring us back around to our original port at New Winchester. We need to find Magdalene's. Taste of smog, the sound of iron on iron. We're home. I can take a quick stop in at the company house, I think. There we go. The local headquarters of the Windward Company, London's proxy in the Reach. Deliver port reports here to receive rewards and win the company's favor. Following the uprising, the fortunes of the Windward Company fell in New Winchester. Now, their modest offices occupy an ex-tinning factory in the murkier recesses of town. It continues to smell, faintly, of beans. Well, I'll deliver some port reports. I only have the one for now, but it was worth 100 sovereigns. It is a comfortable room for a modest secretary. Stained glass windows lay crimson slants across the desk. Prudent secretary receives your reports and reads them one by one. A number of questions follow, to which the secretary expects cogent, succinct answers. Her Majesty is grateful, they say, as you leave. In one fortune's stovepipes, you've lost one fortune's tacketies. These are conflicting groups in the area. Let's see. I see we can trade favor for salon stewed gossip. There are no shops here. There are other things we can do with favor. A ministry-stamped permit, affecting the balance of power, or we can get an invitation to perdurance. We're likely to need these favors later. Let's see. We should take a quick stint past Victory Hall, just to make sure we've discovered it for the experience. But I'm not actually going to stop there. There we go. So, it seems about 2 fuel was enough to make this loop. So, we're going to spend at least that much doing a bit of a similar cut. We should have fuel to spare after that, so long as we aren't blown up somewhere along the way. That would be tremendously unfortunate. We'll go north of the Knuckle this time, see if there's anything different to find. Our scout didn't come across anything, but it seems as though we'll get a bit of a quicker passage. This may be a bit of the dull part of exploring the sky. retreading somewhat old ground. Though there are times, I'm sure, when we will treasure the quiet. Was this ruined edifice beautiful once, or was it always gloomy and unsettling? We don't have the necessary equipment to inspect this and get any kind of gain out of it. It's unfortunate. These sorts of things spawn across the sky. So, given the description we had, this should be the general slice where Magdalen's lies. Because directly northwest would be this, and northwest should be something here. This is a bit of a far-off Magdalen's. The exact positions of all of the different islands in the sky are randomized when you begin your experience as a captain. I may consult the map, unfortunately, frequently. Here we've got a floating bronzewood log. If we had a drill affixed to our locomotive, we could make off with a bit of bronzewood. There are various tools that we can acquire for our locomotive that will make exploring the sky more profitable. A drill, saying tools, a cannery, perhaps, so that we can just can giant monster flesh. Generally speaking, things that are further away from New Winchester will be a bit more dangerous, but a bit more interesting and a bit more profitable. Now, this sphere is one of, I believe, about 4 maps in the game. Oh, what have we here? Some floating wreckage. A bit of supply. Marauder. I want to know what of nearby landmarks if possible. Good shots. Taking care not to overheat. If you could miss, that'll be great. We appear to have had a handily better turning radius than our opponent. Prepare to board the buckled wreckage, poised to plunder the plunderers. Behind you, someone is humming a song of victory. The crew of the Marauder lie dead in the corridor, killed not by your guns, but knives and small arms fire. The only survivor is the captain, locked in the brig with a bottle of brandy. Chalk eyes stare back from every wall. When he ran out of chalk, he began scraping them with his fingernails. Little remains of them but bloodied stumps. Seen this before, Captain, says a crew member, grasping your arm. Sky madness. Magdalene's can treat it. You can be bothered to take the poor sod. Well, we're on our way to Magdalene's. Why not treat it? The high wilderness is cruel. This could easily be you one day. Mention of the Protectorate? Yes, sometimes I take inspiration from things like this. A lot. The crew wrap the sky-maddened captain in blankets, then secure them tightly with belts. It's 4 to transport him safely to your locomotive. He might not be happy restrained, but it should keep him from harm until you get him to Magdalene's. Lies to the north-northwest of New Winchester. Captain secured, you have a moment to see whether there's anything of worth on his locomotive before abandoning it to the wilderness. You've gained a tale of terror, and the sky-maddened captain. Loot the hold! A clasped jewelry box. We've got an 18 sovereigns, not bad. A twinkle of gold upon a bed of velvet, a piece of worn jewelry. A name is inscribed on it, too faded now to read. There's something just a touch to the northwest. If he had gone sky mad and Magdalene's is right here, that would be a terrible, terrible shame. Oh. Seems instead what we've gotten is violence. Some of those shots went askew. managing heat a bit. Whew. That's gonna hit. There we go. You prepare to board the buckled wreckage. Same thing again. Let's see. 76% chance of success. We'll just gain sovereigns. We really need sovereigns right now. Let's take a look at this. If we could scavenge up some fuel, that would be very nice. Wreck gleams with frost. We could repair everything. Simple enough. Okay, not a lot of gains then. I think we'll need to cut somewhat more to the east, perhaps around this obstacle to our north. Implied with that it's just a bit of detritus. Seems interactions with marauders are growing more routine. I think we've got him a bit outranged. There we go. Let's explore the captain's cabin. What have we found? The cabin door did not survive the onset of your guns, nor did the captain. You have to tread carefully. The carpet will not be saved. A few scorched documents sit on the bronzewood desk. They make for interesting reading. Apparently London had need of a few brave captains willing to bring fire to the Tackities. You would not have expected the signatories of the orders. Salon stewed gossip. Handy. Thunderous sound. I think you can go through these. Yes, that is above me. Those are old rail stations. Did not complete. Scouts found something. Catan Carry. Blast it apart. They will charge you. A cantankery. Placated. They're lumbering, half-fossilized isopods that will attack anything they disapprove of. Given that they are very ancient and murderously grumpy, this means almost everything. Well, we'll get a trophy first of all. The crew set about the creature with hacksaws while the quartermaster prepares a board. The hunting club will no doubt wish to replace it with something finer in mahogany or bronzewood, but this will do for the moment. Well, for now, that's what we get. Something valuable? I think perhaps this is a brick of ours. Not useful to us. It seems as though we've got some terror accruing. Might let that creature go. Okay, we're down to 2 supplies and only 1 fuel. We need to probably be making our way back to a port soon. We can go to Port Avon with our current stock of sovereigns and refuel there. That's just more that we don't need. I'd prefer to find Magdalene's, but it seems... Really, is that the way? Is that the way this is going to be? All right. Back to Port Avon, then. Ah! This wind restocks our supply. Not our fuel, though. Yes, fuel we still need more of. Bright-headed partner eels. Something else we could take for food, but... Well, it seems I've been somewhat stymied in my exploration. I think then that it must be this general area, perhaps through here. I'll come back once I've refueled. Oh, but first, a spot of gambling. Caught in the act. You enter the hold and find the game well underway. The driver sits cross-legged in front of a pile of freshly won sovereigns and 3 newly impoverished members of the crew. The stoker angrily throws an expensive-looking watch onto the pile of winnings and departs in a fury. The driver looks up. Captain, care to make a wager? The driver deals the cards between the players. The cook and a crewman whose name you can't place at the moment watch each other, barely disguised suspicion. Behind you, a small crowd gathers to see their captain's coin. Let's play around. Why not? You throw your cards down, not expecting to win. You're not disappointed. The driver bets everything on a single pair. The cook claims the pot. I hear you used to be a test driver, says the quartermaster. The driver nods. You'd never have thought it. As a child, I loved my trains, very ordered. A safe little space where they could go round and round and nothing could go wrong. It was only after the crash that I realized I needed more. I suppose surviving that taught me there was more to living than simply being alive. Another round. Certain things are randomly generated. Certain things are scripted and intentional. This gamble with the incautious driver, this is always an available story. I will step away from the game. And I will let it continue. We're learning more about the incautious driver. A suggestion. There are random layouts, and there are certain vignettes that you can see or not see. A lot of things that are not mandatory, but largely there is a set of stories among the skies for you to explore. Some of them have forks and swerves that you can engage with in different ways. The driver blinks. Can't keep anything from you, I see. I've been feeling a bit on edge. Would like to make myself useful if I can. There's races at the Royal Society. Maybe we could go there, and you could drop me off for a bit. I could make us both a bit of money. They take out a coin and flip it in the air. It comes down on heads. Just a thought, anyway. The driver will join the Rochester Club to take part in races and generate winnings for you while on second bet. I will need to find that, however. Okay. Conversation? What? Oh, yes. The driver scratches again. It's nothing, just a little earache, I'm sure. It comes and goes. Their knee trembles with the frustration of being pulled away from the wheel for even the short conversation. See? All fine now. I will order a visit to a doctor. Not necessary, the driver protests, scratching at their ear with renewed force. A look of pain flashes over their face for a moment. Perhaps my family knows of a specialist in New Winchester. I think Father owns the building. I think I can call in a favor. Right, so that's the progress of that. Yeah, the maps are somewhat random. There are a set series of things in the map, but the way the obstacles are arranged and the way things are placed is somewhat random. Last time I played the game, Magdalene's was in the south. You are not where you thought you were. The sky is wrong. This is not where you were meant to be. Seems we'll need to press on. Was it a trick of the mists? Has the wind carried you astray? Have the heavens themselves turned on their axis? Success. Good. You order the crew to stand firm and hold the course as you traverse this uncanny fold of the sky. Eventually your navigator utters a grateful oath. A landmark. You're found again. I do worry that that may have had the possibility to actually move us in the sky, which might have put us in a good spot of danger. As your terror rises, bad things will happen. You can reduce terror by discovering new ports, returning to major ports like London or New Winchester, and through special opportunities. Try not to let it reach 100. This is usually fatal. You accrue some amount of terror naturally for just being out in the sky. The sky is scary. We can sometimes accrue more terror by interacting with uncouth elements, so to speak. A repentant devil looking for passage. He's looking for passage. He claims to be useful. He doesn't ask where you're headed. So we'll give you a signaler. 100 sovereigns? I think actually I need fuel more than I need a new officer, which is a terrible shame. And I don't have things to sell. And that's going to put me below the number of sovereigns to actually bring him on. We can write another port report, though. Let's see. We have one... we could share our gossip in order to increase our welcome somewhat. I'm actually going to pay the Blemigans tab. Settled. This gives us a mascot. As the fuchsia gentleman inflates for a particularly prolonged diatribe about ill-mannered captains and their disorderly pets, the Blemigan climbs to the bar top to consider your face. It likes what it sees. With a sound like a shoe being pulled from a swamp, the Blemigan finishes its drink. It clambers up your arm until it reaches your shoulder, from where it directs you to the door. It is experienced in surviving the cold of the heavens and the heat of those too cowardly to traverse them. It respects you, serve you well. A mascot is a certain type of officer that we have now acquired. Welcome aboard. Officers give us a stat boost. It's kind of like an equipped item. Okay, so I think I want to head up through here. It doesn't seem as though there's a novel path for me to take, so we're not going to be finding much of anything new, unfortunately. Oh. Ouch. I am just missing a lot of times. I try and get it to miss me. There we go. Done. Try and pull some stones from the carapace. The Blemigan is, well, a Blemigan is a jellyfish and a mushroom. It's kind of a blend. They kind of float. They have a mushroom cap. They're oddly unpleasant. You lash the beast alongside your engine and set back to work with picks and chisels. Soon you've accumulated a bucket full of glittering stones. I actually just started this about an hour ago, so right now we're searching for Magdalens. And this is this one's going to be a new Lineage. I had played up to London before and actually completed the Song of the Skies on a previous character. I played the game for about 30 hours total previously. But if I want to make this more of like a minimum weekly series, I wanted to start fresh. Plus, the last time I streamed this, I didn't have hardly any equipment or any real experience in streaming. I do think it's a bit more difficult to manage, but there's more minor goals along the way. And Seas is, by comparison, a bit emptier. The hour of the wolf. It is late and you're alone. Doubts prey on you. Is this the path you should have taken? You trespass upon the precincts of heaven. What price will be exacted here? What price have you already paid? It will pass. Your doubts are hungry tonight. They seize on your past decisions one by one, worrying at each like wolves at a lamb. Sleep is impossible. When your shift arrives, you arise haggard and unrested. You splash water on your face and wonder what mistakes you'll make today. We've gained more terror. We're up to 61 terror! I do appreciate it when I can bring a good degree of atmosphere. Okay, we're looking to cut through here at a clean east. 2 and 2. 62%. Well, we're trying to find Magdalene's, and if we can find it, we'll be in a good way. The Dauntless Salazar. I'm gonna mourn the dead. It is proper. A simple ceremony, doffed caps, a few words, a gloomy silence, but it helps. The only decency in the skies is that we bring ourselves. That's going to hit us. Let's see, it may not be profitable to take on that Reach Marauder if we can easily pull away. That depends on whether or not there's actually passage through here. And there is. Good. Scout. Something was found. Magdalene's was this close. My goodness. A house of pleasures. We've got a little bit of hull damage. All right. First things first, the bazaar. Make good on our seeds. 240 sovereigns. Handy. Get some experience for this. There's a bargain on munitions. I'll pick them up for now. In Beatrice's exchange, we can get more fuel and supplies if we need. That's one of the beneficial aspects of the Reach. Most ports in the Reach have access to fuel and supplies. Now then, the House of Small Comforts. The glass spires of Magdalene's pierce the clouds like swords. Shadowed figures could be seen moving through gleaming corridors, their identities obscured by the hued glass. Crowds of skyfarers, ministry officials, and merchants mill about the forecourt in varying degrees of distress. All watch the clock set in the great clock tower, waiting for their appointed hour. Let's deliver the sky-maddened captain first of all. The nurses bring a stretcher to carry the sky-maddened captain from your train. He'll receive the care of Magdalene's finest. At least, Magdalene's finest with a sense of charity, given that he has nothing on him to pay for their ministrations. We've gained a vision of the heavens. Our terror has fallen, and we've gained some experience for the trouble. Very good. A founder and master of ceremonies of Magdalene's. He has requested you by name. An attendant escorts you through the dazzling violet corridors. The host's red door is always open. The attendant leaves you just as the clock begins to chime. The amenable host reclines on a couch of crushed velvet, a goblet of sparkling wine in his long fingers. Somewhere in the tower above him, the great clock ticks away. As a policy, the host's atrium is always open to guests. He's available to hear opinions, friendly criticism, and suggestions. Today, he has a headache. A request, you say? His voice is soft and sibilant, like butter melting in candlelight. Guest has become rather too attached to a particular attendant. He always requests that the same attendant appear in the exact same guise. The amenable host's lip curls in distaste. He reiterates the aim of Magdalene's, a place of healing and respite. It was not meant to feed obsession or self-indulgent self-loathing. This guest brings sickness. I would have him purged. I have a dossier on our guest if you're interested in helping. Let's take the Lachrymose guest's dossier. The amenable host smiles indulgently. I'm so glad you want to help. He produces a thin sliver of pages and passes them to you. I'd recommend taking on the role of one of our attendants. That way, you would be playing the role of someone significant to him. The amenable host sighs, reaching for his goblet. He knows all of our attendants by voice now. Someone new is needed. I see. Let's deal with the lachrymose guest. How do you plan to deal with him? A treatment chamber has been emptied for you should you wish to adopt a guise from his past. Alternatively, he is standing right there. He does not seem to have noticed you, his eyes instead boring through the doors of the treatment rooms. Let's see. We can disguise ourselves as his mother or his lover. Let's go as his mother. She drove them apart once. An attendant will help you with the wig and makeup, another with the voice. Magdalene's can accomplish any manner of disguise. You look just like the faded daguerreotype, down to the teeth. You gnash your jaws reflexively. The lachrymose guest's eyes widen as he enters your chamber. This is a mistake. I didn't ask for this. You never do you? You get to work. When it's over, you doubt he will be returning ever again. An attendant escorts you through the dazzling violet corridors. The host's red door... this has already been read. The lachrymose guest is gone. The host smiles beatifically. Of course, my staff will be pleased. It is a risk of our trade when our clients can no longer separate identity and illusion. It's seldom pleasant. He sighs deeply, echoing around the chamber like a newly freed dove. It is a trap any of us could fall into. His face darkens briefly. Here, take this. He fishes around beneath his couch for one of his goblets. It'll fetch a pretty price. Take it with my thanks, and do visit us again. Very good. Let's get a port report. Magdalene's is abuzz with activity. Barely as the clock chimed, then a clamor goes up at the front desk, guests rushing to and from appointments. Lord something was seen in conversation with the amenable host. The East Wing was closed for general access all day. A certain distinguished admiral was seen with his second-in-command entering one of the chambers of regret. Several guests succumbed to an excess of sentimentality and were forcibly removed. Interesting. Back to the House of Small Comfort at large. We should perhaps treat our terror, the Sunless chambers. The skies are full of terrible wonders. All skyfarers see more than they should when they sail the sunless sky. The sound of soft laughter and the occasional sob echo through the stained glass walls of the treatment chambers. That's true, I can hire the repentant devil. But he's back at Port Avon. I might loop back through there a bit later. An attendant sits guard before the door. I'll just need to ask for the particulars. We will always alleviate your fears, but the method is at your discretion. A treatment for ennui. He takes her hand very briefly and holds it so very gently, as though it were a rare butterfly that had alighted there by chance. This way, please. The attendant holds up a candle before 4 doors of mirrored glass. 4 of our staff are available today. Each has their own specialty. Their names are not yours to know, only their craft. He smiles suddenly, his teeth gleaming like links on a chain. You know yourself best. Who can tend to your wounded heart? Whoever you need, you can find behind one of these doors. A former crewman. She is waiting for you at her old desk in her cabin. She had attained a position of some seniority on your engine before circumstances severed you. She leans forward to embrace you before offering a green leather seat. Her mouth quirks, accentuating the scarring on her face. Now, I'm told you're feeling a little tired of life among the stars. Very good. Let's set out. We have other business to attend to. That ticking is quite notable now. I don't recall that being quite so loud before. Let's see. We have another place to see ourselves to, on behalf of the fastidious inspector. Port Prosper, to the north-northeast of New Winchester. We also need to locate Hybris whenever possible. I think that can wait, probably. Found something? Let's take a look. Bit of a northern turn. Well, freshly unterrified. That's pretty good. Need to be mindful of the damage we've taken to the hull. The fallows. So, a little past this. In most of these conflicts, we'll want to exploit the fact that we're a bit more nimble. That's going to hit, unfortunately. Haha! Gotcha. There is a quick step to the left or the right, very important to use. Unusual items in the captain's cabin, please. More salon-stewed gossip. That's the same as before. You would not have expected the signatories of the orders. So, we've come across a bit of a barrier regarding that other thing up there. But I think we wanted to go further east anyway. Let's see what we may find. I had hoped we would be able to salvage that wreck, repairs. But it wasn't happening. We've got very little in the way of supplies. So we might need to make sure we're progressing towards New Winchester. Then again, Port Prosper will certainly allow us to buy supplies. Let's send a scout and see what we find. Something over there. Use the borders of the Queen's March. First step in the long journey to Albion. I think we'll need to go around this to get whatever our scout found. I'm not certain if it's a port. The scout's not always precise. A wonder. The inscription on the memorial to the unknown rat is dedicated to those brave Ratisfaber who gave their lives in the early exodus to heaven. Alright. We get terror reduction for being near this, which is kind of handy. Experience for finding it in the first place. Also quite nice. Ratisfaber are repairmen who used to work on ships. Still do, I believe. They're intelligent, of course. By and large, creatures in this universe speak. Everything seems to have an air of personality so long as it's sufficiently old to be intelligent. Okay, let's see. We're hoping for Port Prosper to the north-northeast, which I think will be much more along this slice of area. So at this point, we'll just be making our way back to New Winchester. Hybrian wilds have devoured countless attempts at settlement. This is a forsaken place. I believe that's a stovepipe vessel. It shouldn't be aggressive as long as I don't pick a fight. You can choose to pick fights with stovepipes and tacketies and get rewards for doing so, but you'll make enemies. A bit uncomfortable, I think. Thankfully, with a half-depleted hold, we don't burn through fuel quite as quickly. Or we move a bit faster, I can't recall. Lights in the distance. The stoker begins to sing a ballad about the chimneys of New Winchester. We actually should be cutting south around here, I think. A bit of scouting. We have one full box once this depletes. The right mood? Must have found something. Okay, so there's something up there. I'll take a look at that once I've made into port. Actually, because yeah, I can go through here next time through. You're down to the last dregs of your supplies, the unlabeled tins, the wormy biscuits. Pistos, hurry. I will be able to see the driver to a doctor in New Winchester. That was part of his story. The Blemigan, I don't think, has a story. Maskets generally don't. Perches on the back of a chair in the bridge. Is gazing through one of the stained glass windows. Is it bored, awestruck, searching for something? Poke. Just as your hand closes on the Blemigan, it reaches a tendril out and gently bats your arm away. None of that phase. It hasn't even turned to face you. Blemigans don't generally speak, though apparently they seem to write poetry. I understand it can be quite salacious. There's an air of impropriety regarding Blemigan poetry in Fallen London. New things. A scrubbed clerk begs a moment of your time. I represent Halliges, the banking house. I promise this will take only a moment of your unquestionably valuable time. He produces a folded contract with a flourish. We hear promising things about you, Captain. Very promising indeed. We would like to extend our services. We provide a secure solution for the storage of your assets, absolute discretion, and steadfastness unto death and beyond. We require only a signature. Unlocks the bank vault. The bank vault is important. I'm certain this represents the beginning of a long and warm relationship between ourselves and your lineage. May it endure. I bid you good day, Captain. That's just an important mechanic. We do need repairs, first of all. Full repair? 51 sovereigns. Very good. Well, quality is all good. I want to see, first of all, we'll get back around to some of the stories. Literature for Palmyra and Plenty. Okay. Let's keep an eye out for approved literature. Although we don't have access to Perdurance or Warlebury Juxtamare. They're both in London. Well, in Albion proper. And we're not there yet. Restock. Okay. The extra 150 we've got I could see as being kind of whatever money. You can see new parts for the ship are quite expensive. If possible, we'd like to be able to get green parts, such as the Durandal pressure canning system, which have more effects than just giving you access. For instance, Murgatroyd's Stain Away canning station just gives you 1 butchery, but the Durandal pressure canning system gives you +4 hold and 1 butchery. They also have requirements. This requires 25 irons, which we don't have. But there's all sorts of things here. Crew quarters, bigger cargo bays, different weapons, better engines. Let's see. A solid workhorse of an engine, courtesy of the Crown and Misery Company. Sober and reliable, like a third favorite aunt in a crisis. Okay. Options for armor. Bales for cabins. Trying to ascertain what we might need to preference. I remember the Grimalkin is a wondrously reliable little thing. The barrel revolves, possibly powered by spite. Regarding stories at the Wolvesy Station. Perched atop a mountain of luggage is a radiant young woman. A steady stream of commoners comes to pay homage, bowing and curtsying enthusiastically. Starlings circle in dense swarms around her. Refugees from Old London are a common sight, although not in such numbers. She ignores everything and hands you papers so pristine they can only be forged. Okay? With 100 sovereigns, we can offer her a berth on your locomotive. She will be a first officer, increases mirrors, hearts, and our affiliation with the Bohème. Welcome aboard, Your Majesty. I'm a humble first officer looking for, what's the word? When commoners do things for coins, she asks, work! That's it! She beams at you, delighted, as innocent as a Gatling gun. As she steps aboard, a commoner calmly takes a spoon from his pocket and scoops out his eyes. After such radiance, all else is tawdry, he says between screams. It seems she has already forgotten about her signing on money. You have recruited the Incognito Princess. The Incognito Princess, to my understanding, is actually a character you can loosely interact with in Fallen London. I believe in that case she's referred to as the Captivating Princess, because she's not traveling incognito. Innocent as a Gatling gun, indeed. I've got a few port reports to exchange on the way out. You most likely have some capabilities of romance, and I believe the falling in love and acquiring any romantic entanglements probably reduces your terror. It might anger the gods, though, depending on how they're moody. In Sunless Seas, you can engage in romance while at port and acquire a proper wife. But while you are at sea, you can engage in trysts, which does reduce your terror because it's very comforting. But there are entities in the Sunless Sea that do not approve of romantic trysts, and they will encourage fate to conspire against you if you engage in adultery. Deliver a few port reports. 200 sovereigns, thank you. And proceeding along. Now, we haven't gained much in the way of new opportunities to keep ourselves sailing. Well, locomoting. Let's see. So, we've got... oh, that's one of the tackety ships. I can just skirt on past that guy. We have a request for crockery and for literature, but we don't really have either of those. We can keep... Oh, that's stuff. Pick up some stuff. We still have some people to deliver. Supply, handy. But mostly it seems we're going to be looking for new opportunities. And hopefully we'll find something soon. How else are we to come across great wealth? I think my course is going to be up here, kind of. The edge of the wilderness, surveilled by the vigilant watchtowers of New Winchester. Surveilled, yes, but safe? No. Havenwood. Fellow looks like he might be a little crazy. All right. Yes, let's keep going north. Well, north. There's no true direction in the sky. But we do assemble a sort of convenience. A stand-in for direction. Nice haunting melodies. The elusive Elstroth. Your driver pulls your locomotive alongside the wreck, close enough for you to leap the gap. You squeeze with difficulty into the starlit bridge where frozen figures sit in stiff attention, the dead bridge crew. Mustaches bristle with ice crystals. You pick a careful path between them. Something at the far end of the room has caught your eye. We accrue a non-insubstantial amount of terror, but we still get something in exchange. A bit of sovereigns. Looks like we're getting into the cold area. Perhaps Lustrum lies this way? There are a few things that can be here, not all of which I should interact with. You bribe your bat with moths until it tells you what it discovered. We've got something up there and something over here. I'm going to go west first. Can't drill this without a drill. Quite unfortunately. This kind of territory, I believe, can play host to curators. We should watch out for that. You found a horror, one of the more disturbing landmarks in the high wilderness. Don't hang out near it. Miners dug too deep in this worldlet, disturbing a disgruntlement of cantankerity. The War of Fossils. When settlers arrived in the Reach, miners flocked to this frozen rock, lured by the promise of hours stored in its core. An eruption of cantankerity has left it in its current mangled state. A makeshift graveyard stands at the lip of the rock, a memorial and a warning. We can try to mine for unclaimed hours. We can do because we have carefully packed munitions. It's very difficult. Lanterns doused by the sleet mark the ramshackle graves. Relighting them would commemorate the dead, may disturb any cantankerity that still linger there. I'm going to try this. Oops. Bad things happen. We gain some terror. Once every grave had a lantern. Now most are lost or stolen. Your crew search through drifts of muddy sleet beneath mangled mining wreckage to replace what they can. In the dim light, your stokers struggle with the tinder and oil. Cold is fierce and chills the fingers to the bone. Eventually, matches strike and a thin string of light washes over the graves. You've lingered too long. The ground begins to quake. The cantankeries stir. Groaning cantankerity pour from the fissures of the rock. Stunted, half-blinded, and irritable from their long sleep, they thrash across the surface, crushing graves and battering the rusted equipment to fragments. Well then. We stand firm. It didn't go well. Victory at a cost. We have lost 3 crew. You give them hell. The air sizzles with the stink of burning cantankerity flesh, and you slip in the pools of churned-up mud and cantankerity effluvia. Eventually, the last of the cantankerity slips back into the earth. The cheers are few. There will be more bodies for the graveyard. Well, that's unfortunate. We ought to make away from this with due haste, ideally for Port Prosper. Let's hope. Frosty fingerprints. Due to undermanning, one of your crew cabins sits empty. But a story has taken root among the crew that something sleeps in there on nights when the wind howls. Something that leaves frost on the bed sheets. Some of the crew have begun raiding the pantries to leave bowls of food outside the cabin door. Your cook complains. Let's see. I'm going to force somebody to sleep in the empty cabin. Uh-oh. You choose a member of the crew by drawing lots and send him to sleep in the vacant cabin. He makes a show of bravado as he enters, whistling cheerfully. The next morning, you find him frozen to the bed. His eyes are closed as if he still slept. The window is open. That's not good. We don't want our crew to slip too low. It causes difficulties. We'll need to get more people soon. But with less crew, we don't go through supplies as quickly, so that's nice. Something up over there at the borders. We can't harvest that. We're in a bit of a bad way. What's here? The hyperbole. Movement. Your signaler fetches their signal lamp and flashes a patient message into each portside window. There, a faltering glow burns in the frost. Someone has struck a match. You dispatch a boarding party. You retrieve a survivor who is eager to sign on and a hard worker, if surly from their long isolation. Good. There's a little bit of clutter in the way that's preventing that shot from hitting. Good shots, those. Okay. Another one or two with good alignment. Got it. Excellent. Check the captain's cabin. The cabin door did not survive the onset of your guns, nor did the captain. Okay, we've read that bit a few times now. So then, I want to explore kind of this region, I think. But let's scout for a moment before we proceed onwards, just in case there's something else around here. Nothing to report, except that the sky is vast and the winds bite. Our supplies are a little low, but tolerable. We should be able to check out a bit of the things over here, swing past the monument to the rat, and make it back. Just a titch strained. I am very glad that we found an extra crew member. The occurrences in wrecks like that are random from among a table of things. So there can be quite a number of good outcomes. We cannot harvest these eels, unfortunately. That's background. We'll fly over it. Unfortunately, with my supplies as they are, I would have difficulty utilizing our bat. I hear something, though, to the east. There we go. A rumble of far-off refineries. Distant searchlights take the sky. The Fulbright factory. Port Prosper, here we go. Okay, we take on a new facet. Let's see. Did we spend a spell in prison? Did we have a mentor? Someone who saw your potential and decided to nurture it? Below stairs, comforts of every well-to-do household rely on the scurrying, grinding work of its servants. You know this firsthand. Smoggy streets, which are a time in hard end of London where gas lamps are scarce. I think we really need more veils. Or do we want to get secondary to that? We'll get some hearts in addition to our veils, perhaps. Yeah, this is more restrictive, but you get affiliation in exchange. In the smoggy streets, we despised it. Only your dreams of something better kept you going. As soon as you saw an opportunity to make a new life for yourself, you jumped at it. You haven't looked back. Let's get docked. Lots of things to discover here. Crammed at the feet of a hulking crag, Port Prosper is a little London, divided into an affluent West End and an impecunious East. Always such interesting words here. Queen's Cross is a busy station, crowded with engines that have arrived through the nearby transit relay from Albion. Let's deliver the fastidious inspector, first of all. She disembarks with her bag in hand, peers up at a clock tower that is being raised above the station. It is tangled with scaffolding and rings with the sound of hammers and the cries of workmen. The inspector will depart, but be sure you've held any conversation with her that you wish to. You receive fuel and supplies in addition to a sum of money. Ensure you have 6 spaces in your hold before accepting. Well, Let's see to those 6 spaces. Can offer transport to settlers? Sure. Let's transport a settler. Where to? I simply must move to Titania. From everything I've been given to understand, it's altogether divine. She rushes onto your vessel as soon as you finish shaking hands. Excellent. I'll stay out of your way then. You'll hardly even notice me. Any luck and you'll forget I'm even here. All right. Parsimonious Chairman. An opportunity for profit. Parsimonious Chairman has work for ruthless captains. He sits behind his imported mahogany desk, a decanter of brandy at his left hand, and a series of neatly stacked reports at his right. A fire has been lit in the cavernous hearth. It is too warm. He pours the brandy into 2 glasses, then produces a ruler to measure the amounts. To business, he smiles, revealing the extensive damage to his teeth. I was a pugilist back in London, a young man's game. He stands at the window, watching the starlight bathe the sloping streets of Prosper. This place exists because of constant work, from the politicians who planned it, to the pioneers who built it, to the soldiers who even today defend it from the Tacketies. We have need of more such work. Bring me nameplates from Tackety engines. We keep lists. You will be rewarded. Sure. He refills your glasses. Cheers! Your glasses clink as another wash of heat comes from the hearth. I'm glad there are those in the Reach dedicated to our vision. Let's write a port report. Factories continue to belch out smoke, while over the bridge, hopeful crowds gather outside the Admiral Nelson. Lovers can be seen strolling arm in arm along the promenade, at a respectable distance from their chaperones. There was a brief protest outside the Windward Company factory, swiftly quelled. The scones at the Nelson were as good as ever. The frequency of the jam was less than might be desired. Let's attend a parade. It is, apparently, the Feast of the Red Saint. Gaudy banners fly over the painted rooftops of Port Prosper. The smog of the East End is hidden away by giant posters displaying dragons in varying degrees of vivisection. The cramped streets are clogged with people. Wealthy West Enders promenade about the amusements, while impoverished East Enders work the stalls and huddle by the chestnut fires for warmth. A painted dragon pursued by knights is chased through the crowds to a chorus of "Ho, the riding!" I'm going to mingle with the West Enders. The hats, the crinoline, the starch that gleams on the mustaches. You're sure you'll fit right in. A lady in a jacket bodice with bone sleeves looks you up and down. What do you think, Mildred? A murmur of assent runs through the crowd of starched and corseted ladies. A gentleman adjusts his mustache. Yes, you'll do. You spend your day with some of the self-described notables of Port Prosper. You eat roast chestnuts, slip glasses of grey fields, all the way from old London, and even participate in a riding, charging through the narrow streets pursued by several braying fellows in a dragon. You are tolerated by the prosperous West Enders. The devils of Carillion claim to be experts in the assessment and improvement of the soul. They would describe yours as sickly, cloying, and unappetizingly crawling. I see. All right. Ask a bit about the relay and passage to London. A garrulous captain is delighted to have an excuse to talk. I'm happy to help, Captain, happy to help. They point down the docks. There you are. Keep going past the port. You can't miss it. If you've good eyes, you might even be able to see it from here. Passage ain't free, mind. You can travel first class if you have a ministry-stamped permit, or you can bring a couple of barrels of ours to travel second class. All right, we'll need to acquire those things, I think. You can buy souls from a spirifer at a bargain, but we don't have the room. So, I'm going to sell a little bit of fuel just to empty out our hold, so that I can then deliver Fastidious Inspector and accept payment. We got 3 fuel and 3 supplies, filling up our hold, 150 sovereigns, a bit of experience. Thank you, Captain. Here is the balance for our agreement, and, as promised, A requisition order for fuel and supplies. She casts another glance at the incomplete clock tower. Given the apparent state of construction, I'd recommend you visit the worksite. There may be an opportunity there. And thank you for the pleasant conversation, Captain. The sky can be a lonely place. You enlivened it. I've included a small additional sum in your remuneration as a token of my gratitude. What do they need? Bronzewood, 1 consignment. They sell it at Trader's Wood and Palmyre and Plenty's, I hear. And a gourd of chorister nectar, too. This bunch of work-shy ingrates needs constant shouting at. My voice has given up the ghost. Some nectar should have me bellowing again like a champion. Corellian's your best bet there. Or Titania, the flower town. We'll pay, like. You can purchase the necessary goods and return them to Port Prosper. You'll make a tidy profit. Be warned, materials aren't cheap and they'll occupy space in your hold. I have bronzewood, but no chorister nectar. Let's see. Anything else to do over here? I don't think so. So, Port Prosper. I want to try and take a roundabout route back to New Winchester so that we can get some exploring done. Going over this way, further to the northeast, should be the lift to London, the lift to Albion proper. That would transpose us onto a whole nother map, so we don't need to do that anytime soon, I don't think. Although there are new opportunities in London. You don't need to complete the Reach, per se, before proceeding onwards, but we certainly should explore it more than we have already. We should get a better ship at the least. Skyfarers, exposed to the haunting light of the stars, are prone to sudden obsessions and erratic behavior. A junior signaler is discovered in the hold amidst a pile of dissected books. She's cutting out words and grouping them in clusters to represent a new system of linguistic categorization. Narrative is preposterous and occlusive, she informs you. Meaning is the only sensible foundation for classification. You examine her arrangements. The word light and law sit side by side. Nearby, conjunction, philosophy, and faction huddle together. I can get them some more brandy, or I can confine them to their quarters where they can do no harm. Just gonna hold them still, I think. They're no good to you in this state. You confine them to quarters and resolve to discharge them at the next port. The atmosphere aboard is subdued for a time, but it is understood that these things happen in the sky. The heaven's price, they call it. I have lost a crew with that decision. I think if I had set them about their work and returned them to their quarters, that would have perhaps increased terror for other crew members if I failed the check. I didn't really want to throw supply at the problem. After much flattery, your bat admits to having found something. Very good. There are a lot of locations still left to discover. We need to locate Palmyre and Plenty's, as well as Titania. They probably wouldn't have killed another crew member. Also, it would be unusual for both sides of a decision to result in the same kind of problem. Ooh. Crew levels low, less vital duties have begun to slip, like cleaning. Everything is covered in a layer of grime. There is a pervasive odor. It is past the point of slovenliness and begun to affect morale, safety, and the health of those on board. We can reassign engineers to cleaning duty. Doing so will affect the efficiency of your engines and therefore cost you fuel. This place will become an absolute sty. Or we can just allow the condition to deteriorate. I'm going to do that. Poor hygiene. We lost another crew member to an illness. This is coming out quite badly. Also seems as though this is going to run up into the edge of the map, so let's turn back around. It was unfortunate we didn't have the opportunity to hire more crew in Port Prosper. We really will have to get back to New Winchester for that. But yes, low staffing will cause quite a number of problems. What's required to start a conversation with the princess? A sky story and a tale of terror. From the tiara-crested brow downwards, there is nothing about the Incognito Princess that is not incandescent. She's like the sun, and about as dangerous to anything in the vicinity. Wherever the princess goes, she looks around with a surplus of curiosity and a complete lack of care. I see. We'll need to be interesting. We have the supply to scout quite ably. On something over there. Returns in a huff and spends 10 minutes complaining about what it found. That over there to the north of the memorial is perhaps a bit interesting, but I've been there before, so I think it's just something temporary. I don't think it's going to be another port. Hearing some very disturbing sounds. What's this? Something down here. Can't make use of that, really. Van Zessen Waste. Princess glances at palmiers. I considered running away with them, but some refuse to bathe. Ah, okay. Coming across the circus of Palmier and Plenties. Ah. Finding it was a handy-dandy reduction to terror. That's good. Oh, we're giving them some brandy here. I'm not losing another man. That evening, your engine is loud with song and laughter. Sky shanties are perhaps a little lubricated, the humor laced with a touch of mania, but for now, the fears of the sky are forgotten. A passing cantankery grumbles through the cold night. It tuts at the bright, glaring warmth of your window. It flicks a disapproving antenna at the noise and the hour. When you have passed it by, it is glad to have the quiet and cold of the sky back. Finish docking, please. A traveling circus is settled here, too afraid to go further and too afraid to turn back. Its clanking, gaudy locomotive scavenges such audiences as it can from nearby homesteads and delivers them for an evening of shabby, desperate, big-top magic. The amiable vagabond. I need 2 sky stories to bring him online. He is a signaler, which I believe the Incognito Princess, I can't recall if she is a signaler. Officers. No, she's a first officer. Of course, she wouldn't settle for anything less. The Inconceivable Circus. The greatest show! That's what the adverts promise. The reality is not impressive. Aside from the big top that dominates the circus, the place is shabby, poorly maintained, and even more poorly attended. Bored-looking circus folk run rotting booths. The clowns' painted-on smiles are no match for the deep-set misery behind the grease paint. Even the calliope music, playing on a run-down piano, is more grimly resolute than cheery. Begin with a port report. The big top looms dramatically in the fog of the Reach, but it's not nearly as imposing as the massive obelisk floating nearby. Some enterprising soul has hung bunting between it and the big top. As for the circuits itself, outside of the performers, it is practically deserted. You may be the first new face in the audience in quite a while. Well, it's only 10 sovereigns for a ticket. Tickets acquired. You now have 5 tickets to the circus. The urchin hands over your tickets with no apparent enthusiasm. Thanks, he mutters. All right. Let's see. Oh, we may be able to recruit crew. It's worth trying. Didn't happen. Prospective crew member looks tempted, but their eyes keep dragging back to the big top. I have to be here, they apologize. I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Ah, is that so? Interesting. Obelisks tend to have that effect on people. Let's see. Let's check out the big top. Pride of the circus, whatever that counts for here. The greatest show. No one in the meager audience displays any enthusiasm, not even when the ringmaster thunders in on a horse-drawn calliope. Then come the acts themselves. Oh dear. The humiliated magician's trapdoors fail to open, leaving his glamorous assistant notably unvanaged. The bereaved acrobat swings from a single trapeze, the other hangs lonely and unused. Oh my. The pensive clown's fire-juggling act ends in disaster, and not the humorous kind. The less said about the lion tamer, the better. He should recover. How about the amusements? You spend some time watching the sideshow attractions. The amazing invisible flea circus is immediately disappointing. The circus's strong woman, on the other hand, is arguably too good for the place, effortlessly raising all manner of heavy things over her head. The problem is that she makes it look so easy that the audience just shrug. It seems that the only thing she cannot lift is the mood. Alright, what's behind the tents? A pair of clowns whose painted-on smiles do not match their actual scowls spot you almost immediately. There is nothing funny about the heavy sticks they carry. You are less than politely escorted back to the big top. Perhaps if you were better known around here, they would be less concerned. I see. I have 1 ticket left. Can I get more at the ticket booth? He is gone. Back in, it says, followed by an indecipherable scribble. How useful. Right. I'll have to be a bit more familiar at the circus before I can get anything more done here. And unfortunately, I only netted 1 sky story. They were looking for literature. They have to offer barrels of unseasoned hours. That's not a bad price for hours. The actual value of hours bought wholesale is like 80? Yeah, we can probably turn these around somewhere. If not, we can just bank them. Yeah, ministry-approved literature. Get 190 sovereigns per literature we can bring in. We just have to find it first. We'll have to stop by this port again later. A lot of ports and stories in Sunless Seas and Sunless Skies run in cycles. You need to come back to a place more than once to actually understand it. We acquired a port report at the very least, and we've still got the problem of needing more crew. I'm going to check out this curiosity towards the east, and then we'll probably start making our way back towards Winchester. Now, I am starting to get up to about the amount of money that we could get some new addition to our ship. Perhaps a drill. Maybe crew chambers or something. Crew quarters. Chambers. Seems a bit uncharitable, doesn't it? To refer to them as chambers. I'm hearing a sort of flapping in this direction. Can't get that. Double shifts. Discipline is probably the least valuable option here. I could issue extra brandy. Yeah, we'll just give them booze. Okay, so a bit of something there. That is a bit of a conflict that I should hope not to get involved in. I could try and like hang around and scavenge off the edge of that. But with my supplies ticking down, I'm just gonna hustle back to Winchester. We've got sovereigns to spare. Low supplies? I can tolerate only 2 courses at dinner if I must. Oh, the Incognito Princess is hilarious. I do love having her aboard. Our primary early game concern is generally going to be recruiting officers. They give a nice big early stat boost, and we need to have better attributes so that we can more consistently achieve success when things get troublesome. If we had more hearts, for instance, we might have sustained more crew. Okay, this is going to be tricky. I'm hoping that I can loop back around this. This is more assuredly going to... This would almost certainly work. There's probably empty space over there. But instead, we're going to do this. These arboreal wilds are lush and green. Fronds hang like curtains. Leaves loll, fat as giants' tongues. We've got a lighthouse over here. Every lighthouse is good for experience. Markland's Thrift. Found it. Cool. That's a stovepipe vessel over there. Fighting with some sort of marauder, probably. They don't fire their guns for no reason. Okay, looks like we've got the right heading, and most likely, clear skies ahead. Chugging along. Tackety ship. Good familiar ground. Settling into New Winchester. Taste of smog, the sound of iron on iron. We're home. And without a crate of supplies to spare. All right. Mr. Menagerie is passing through New Winchester. Purveyor of fine scouts. There's more things we need to do. Let us hire many crew. 80 sovereigns. You're only able to do this once every 15 days. They stumble aboard, blinking away the fog. Core, they say, beds. Gain 4 crew at the cost of 80 sovereigns. Well, that's what we get. We've got people. As for Mr. Menagerie... Well, we can't afford anything. His costs are very strange. Star-smitten bat requires 2 savage secrets and 2 visions of the heaven. An intrepid cavie, a large guinea pig, has a good range, returns after finding 1 discovery, but conveys more information. That's going to take a searing enigma, and a ratronaut will require a moment of inspiration and a condemned experiment. Yes. Better scouts require more mirrors to use. No scout for me today, and he'll be moving on. Mr. Menagerie nods its head. Moving elsewhere soon, but we will leave a note saying where we have gone. We'll have more things to show and stories to tell. It turns away, humming an eerie tune to itself as it gathers up its things for the next leg of the journey. Chorister nectar for Magdalene's. Let's take that. So, we still need to get Chorister nectar, and now we need 4 of it. I have enough to buy an emanation, possibly, but that's about it. Although actually, come to think of it, I think in terms of hold slots, we do have 2 weapon slots on the spatchcock. 1 auxiliary, 1 plating, 1 bridge. These are our prospects. Got hours and munitions. I think perhaps I would like to consign some of these things to the bank. So we're going to put the munitions and the hours in the bank for now. And then back at Victoria Market, we're going to buy more supplies, a bit more fuel. That ought to be enough for a satisfying bit of voyaging. Let's take the incautious driver to the doctor. While the doctor conducts her examination, the driver asks you to update their old records with their current employment. You take a moment's pleasure in the driver's ridiculous middle name. Pass over the field on gender, straightforwardly crossed out. Their address was last an eyebrow-raisingly prestigious New Winchester townhouse. You amend it to the name of your locomotive. Ah, the doctor says, peering into the driver's ear. A case of verdancy, a fungal colonization of the brain, not uncommon in the Reach. You've noticed uncharacteristic impulses, changes in behavior? She eyes the driver's sky suit, star, and scars. The driver nods. Yes, the spores root deeply in the brain. Attempts to extract them have had less than satisfactory results. I'm afraid the best prescription is to entertain them. Take them where they want to go, see the things they want to see. Typically, a little travel does the job. They'll soon lose interest. Yes, the brain fungus may lose interest. All right. I should probably talk further with the incautious driver about that. I believe that's all we have to do at the station. Let's chitter-chatter. Let's converse. The incautious driver paces back and forth, clicking their tongue. Must have been the crash in the nature reserve. My father sent me there to take up a nice, quiet job. I always did love botany, but when they pulled me from the wreckage, I had new dreams to follow. I thought they were mine. Now how can I be sure? A new resolve washes over their face when they turn back, eyes sharp and sparkling with a flicker of emerald. Either way, I know where I have to go. Old Tom's Well. Give me the wheel, Captain. I have an appointment to keep. The well lies to the south of New Winchester. Well, we've learned about the location of a well. By my recollection, there are several wells in the sky, and I suppose I would quite like to show you what a well looks like. It's perhaps not what you would expect, but let's depart for the south. There are usually some locations that are held in reference to one another. Some locations that are guaranteed to be somewhat close. Actually, though, before I head on down... No, this is fine. I'd wondered if for a moment I should turn in my port reports, but I think it'll be okay. Oh. I see a bit of wreckage over to the west. Let's gather this up. Supplies. Most excellent. Let's do a bit of scouting, perhaps? Nothing to report, except that the sky is vast and the winds bite. Wells are usually on the outskirts of an area. So I expect Old Tom's Well will be about the furthest south I can manage to go. We'll be trying to make a loop around whatever we find. And when we come back, if we happen to be poor, we'll exchange some port reports. The sky freezes its cold jaws about you. Water freezes in the pipes. Engineers scurry to and fro with boiling kettles. Thankfully, I've got crew now. Back in the cold sections of the Reach. Scout has relayed some findings. Something to the north of this rock, I think. I'll take a quick circle around it. So long as what we're seeing is just tackety scouts, that's okay, because I can choose whether or not to pick a fight with them. There are worse things. Ah, more rubbish. Useful. Ah, crockery. I've been looking for some. I want to go more directly south. There's very much a nothing ventured, nothing gained sort of attitude about sailing the sky, charting the sky. If you don't take risks, you're not going to make substantial gains. You could wind up spending a long time not acquiring very much. That being said, we don't currently have the means to defend ourselves from particularly dangerous foes, so it's possible we'll run into something that I need to evade. Or I could meet my end, dashed upon the rocks somewhere in the sky. If I do perish, then I'll take some time offline to try and catch up to where I was. Ah, Carillion. They say scourging is good for the soul. I prefer a spa. Princess's smile. Right. I thought I had just gotten my phone rattling, but I'm not carrying it. Just one crockery. We just found it. This peaceful Carmine institution was founded by devils from London and dedicated to the betterment of the soul. Botheridge's A Tour of Heaven describes it as a cross between a spa, a sanatorium, and purgatory. She commends its bracing airs. Gray stone, color of a monastery. Attending devils and devilesses dressed in uniform, and an incoming parade of the sick, the friendless, the dying, and those who think their lives would be better if only they were something else. This is Carillion, where souls are refined into something more impressive. You take some notes on a pilgrim's journey through Carillion. The first port of call is the beehive-shaped office in the center, or more accurately, the long queue leading into it. From there, the infernal attendants direct them to one of Carillion's 7 gardens to undergo penances. They certainly look penitent by the time they emerge. Presumably their souls are much improved, not that you can tell. Let's speak to the presiding deviless. The presiding deviless works in an office shaped like a beehive, a stone and wickerwork building that stands all alone in the middle of Carillion's central courtyard. She conducts intake interviews with new patients one by one. After a long time in line, you reach her at last. Greetings, Captain. How may we stretch, strain, purify, and strengthen you, now you've come to Carillion? Devils all have this look in their eyes. Orange eyes. Kind of a serpentine, or perhaps draconic look. We do whatever is necessary to reclaim unsatisfactory souls, she says. She sits back in her chair, and you can imagine her making just such a pitch to the Princess of Hell. For humans, primarily, though we do attend to a few other creatures elsewhere on the Great Chain. They come to us with souls that are stained, disused, in every kind of sordid condition, and we make them acceptable again. Most of those who come to us are volunteers. The rest are beyond the position of being able to volunteer, consigned to Carillion by their families or employers. This makes us uninitiated. And after a stay, what then? Most people go home again, she says. We find that they are weary of their souls and pass them on to us. We operate on that slender profit, and on what we can get from donations, or from sales of penance and forgiveness. She looks at the blank page before her. But what about you? You look sturdy enough to make full use of our services. Are you afraid of needles? What is a view on worms? Which do you fear more, venoms or poisons? She takes down a page or two on all your least favorite things. get access. Listen, she says, you are free to make use of Carillion. Take a penance or two, alter your soul. I think you'll find our services very imaginative. There's another matter I hope you will look into. A devil in rose-colored gloves. He used to supervise the Gaslight Terrace. He was removed from that position, but I fear he may still not be entirely aligned with the objectives of Carillion. If you find out anything about him, anything to his disadvantage, bring me the evidence, and I will reward you. I see. Let us go back to the center. Let's travel. You can gain different kinds of penances through all of this. You need to have certain qualities of soul to be allowed in. Yeah. You must have a flickering soul to visit the terrace of glass statues, a stained soul to visit the garden of insatiable roses, a clear soul to be invited into the sand garden. Let's go first to the Gaslight Terrace. Dozens of newcomers walk in that direction. Must be a safe choice. Your companions are a lady in a buttoned cloak and a young male student. They talk among themselves about the seasonable warmth, and about how the yellowish glow of the lamps does not show blue silk to best effect. Their words are commonplace, their hands folded and gloved, their opinions supplied by a respectable gazette. You have almost forgotten them even while you're still walking together. The path descends by shallow steps to a broad terrace, as crowded as an imperial exhibition. Gaslight lamp. Can we gain penance of enlightenment? Vision, imagination, the ability to see beyond the nearest convention. That's what the devils are trying to evoke here. We've gained it. A dissolute and bored-looking young woman likes carob candies. For the penitent's own good, she is being made to gnaw an uncooked horseradish. Do you feel any more interesting now? Asks the supervising devil. As for your punishment, it does not bear speaking of. The experience leaves your throat parched. The spineless curate. He sits in the stocks, attended on by a devilish orderly. His eyes beseech you to visit him. I've seen something. In this light, it's hard not to see things. A devilish orderly jabs the curate with a needle. At the sight of the jab, the curate's skin goes lavender. I'm being treated for not believing in God. I've tried everything. Prayer, fasting, long weekends with a professional saint. None of it worked. My sermons were suffering. My bishop complained. And as it helped, I have dreams of snakes and angels, he said. It hasn't made me a mystic. I don't think the devils are real either. Just men with funny eyes, aren't they? The devilish orderly smiles with extra teeth. The curate's penance can be paid by somebody other than himself, by one who has the penance of enlightenment and the penance of shifted perspective. You can also have 5 penances of enlightenment. You can continue to try and gain those, I believe, by operating at the Gaslight Terrace. Let's examine other penances. The ascent is rocky. The sound of chimes is audible all the way down here. You put your foot on the first step, and a devil blocks you. Those who enter the bell garden must be in a proper state of hygiene, Captain, he says. Wouldn't want to make things worse for the poor sufferers. He washes his hands in the fountain. Stopping you must have been grubby work. You have been turned away for impurity. Go back to Carillion Center. There we go. It takes a ritual of purification to enable entrance to the bell garden. Failed. Gaining 5 terror. Let's see, what about a shift of perspective in the checkerboard garden? It is reached by a flight of wrong-sized steps, the risers too steep and the flats too narrow. But by the time you come out on the plane of the checkerboard, your calves are hurting. Devils are playing tricolor chess with some of the penitents. White pieces, red pieces, pieces the color of a flourishing wind. Around the edges of the board sit the patients who have already been captured, or who were never part of the game to begin with. Here your curdled soul, envy, frustration, tendency to begrudge honors given to others. These are reasonable responses, aren't they? This is what the devils offer to cure. One penance, one curdled. Let us consider the rubbery man. No one has dressed him for the chess game or let him enter the board. He sits off to one side, tentacles squirming. Rubbery men are squid creatures. He is surprised that you approach him. He moves to make room for you in case you are merely trying to occupy his space. When you speak to him, he offers you a squishy handshake. By various signals, gestures, and directions of his eyes, he indicates that he has come here looking for his place in the world. You've met a rubbery penitent. He can be redeemed by 5 shifts of perspective, or a shift of perspective and enlightenment can elevate him. Does he know about the devil with rose-colored gloves? The rubbery man holds up one tentacle representing the devil with the rose-colored gloves. Then he holds up another tentacle. After a moment, he twists the two together. Are the tentacles meant to be kissing? Is that what this is? When you look blank, the rubbery man repeats the pantomime several times. Perhaps the devil has a lover. Perhaps the devil loves the rubbery man. Perhaps the devil enjoys exotic forms of dance. Interesting. Let's leave him alone for a moment and see if we can gain a shifted perspective. We were lucky. All you have to do is wait. The White Queen tried to hitch a ride in a royal carriage. As punishment, she is being subjected to daily readings on the importance of knowing one's place. The supervising devil is distracted by the play on the chessboard. As for your punishment, it does not bear speaking of. Yet again. I believe we can now elevate the rubbery man. Enlightenment for a start, conversation for a chaser. He consumes both. Tentacles are involved, and the twitching of excessively mobile... Would one call those lips? But then, what a transformation. His features smooth and flatten, his tentacles retract. From a distance, one might take him for a human gentleman with an especially prominent brow. He addresses you, then, no thanks, no comment, not even the wave of a tentacle. What an ingrate! He takes up someone's freshly discarded crozier. As a bishop, he joins the game in play. You've lost your penances. You've gained a vision of the heavens and a lot of experience. All right. Let's keep ambling about. The White Queen is captured just as you go, but there's no time to look back at the match in progress. The Stunted Grove, Penance of Ordeal. There's no real gate, but not much of a wall either. There's only a low stone barrier, perhaps a foot tall, easy to step over. The thorn bushes grow thorns an inch or more long. There are paths between them, but it is hard to pass by without tearing one's clothes. The devils who work here have scratches on their forearms, though they do not seem to mind. There is not a single comfortable place to sit. There is a professional penitent here. She's seated on a stool, eating vast quantities of sorbet. You can cure your cold soul here. She collects penance for other people. It's a slow process, but the quality is better than the indulgence penance one may buy from the presiding deviless. There's enough to supply a carnival. Penitent's lips are blue, her fingers are sticky. There are purple smears on her frock. Wasps are taking an interest in the side of her face. When you come over, she puts down her spoon long enough to greet you. I'm here on behalf of Viscountess who doesn't love her children. She's waiting back in London for me to deliver her penance. Pointedly, the supervising devil sets another long-handed spoon at her elbow. All right. Does she know about the devil with the rose-colored gloves? Oh, yes. She smiles reminiscently when you describe the devil in question. I know him, she says. I've been coming here a long time, in my line of work. He used to be very highly placed, you know, and then the presiding deviless caught him pinching supplies from the storehouse and gave him a demotion. Now he performs a few of the lesser punishments, some lightweight pitchforking, a little work with hot poker, but his heart isn't in it. Devils don't stick long at anything. I could donate her ordeal, or I could donate her ordeal and deprivation. But I don't have these things. It seems I can't acquire ordeal of my own volition. No, there was an option. It's a test of irons. Let's try it. A dandy replies with a smirk to any kindness or flattery. As a corrective, he has been tied to one of the trees in the grove. You don't get through it. Back to the center. You can keep trying at these and just gain terror in exchange, which is a way of getting profit to some extent, as well as experience for your character, to a good degree. I'll be probably working at that. Terrace of glass statues. No one else on the passage to the terrace will admit that they know where they're going. What a curious figure, says an old man, pointing at his own reflection. Here's hoping there aren't any other clowns of that nature where we're going, eh? He jabs you in the rib with his elbow. Let's see. What does it mean to have a flickering soul? I feel as though I should be different than this man. What if we don't have a reflection? Let's see. Good night, thanks for cruising by. I'll be trying to do this once a week. There are various figures who look familiar, but not a one of them is yourself. They're too tall, or too short, or too skinny, or too ill-dressed, or too foppish, or a bit too pleased with themselves. You've nothing in common with any of them. Stand in front of one of the statues and it will melt into your pose. It will look you in the eye. Its face will be your face, minus a few marks of character. It will still be transparent. Here, the devils treat flatterers, the excessively malleable, and those who don't know themselves at all. Wow, this takes a lot of mirrors to figure out. Let's approach the Grim Penitent. The man is slim and there are circles under his eyes. He shows no energy at all. He lifts his eyes when you seat yourself. It takes time to get him to speak. He finds the effort of conversation very hard going. For the first few exchanges, he confines himself to the weather at Carillion, but finally he tells you why he's here. Too many years I lived on the other side of a mirror, he says. So long that I forgot everything but that place and its ways, where is and is not change places. I took a companion and endured his not love. It took me a long time to recognize it for what it was. Assisting a penitent who has had a little too much contact with the Finger Kings. The mirror-bound penitent. It either takes excess 5 or endurance 5, but I can't get a pairing of two simple things to get through that one. Terrace of glass statues. And I can't get into the last two. So then. Let's get into the Bell Garden after all. First, remove your shoes. Wash your face from the fountains of fresh water and your feet in the basin of salt water. Walk across a patch of white sand, throwing a pebble over your left shoulder to baffle any ill-omened thing that might be following you. Then sleep in a hammock on a private balcony, where only other patients may enter. When you wake up, eat a plain white bread with a salt crust. After all this, you will be ready. The stairs lead up to the highest and coldest point in Carillion. The bells ring louder as you climb. The music is mathematical and exact. Each note sounds for exactly the same length of time, the same duration that is required to ascend one step. No one passes anyone else on these stairs. In a tower over the Bell Garden, 12 devils ring a change of 12 bells. The full peal will take 11,000 days to complete without intermission. From time to time, one devil relieves another, stepping in during the half-minute when that particular bell is at rest. There are no errors. This mathematical music can be heard everywhere in Carillion, but it is loudest here. Impurity and imprecision are not welcome. Let's see. There is a penitent nurse. She's been within the sound of bells for 40 days. The clangor is starting to disrupt her mind. She begs you will help her, and out of your kindness, pay part of her penance for her. She would do the same for you. She's a very kind and forgiving soul. To convince you of this point, she scribbles down assurances, compliments, and a sketch of herself ministering to a leprous child. What about the devil with the rose-colored gloves? She shakes her head in distress. The words she scribbles for you are, if you can read her writing, seen the kind before, had them in a hospital sometimes. You can't get anything clearer out of her. Let's see. I need deprivation and ordeal to cure the nurse. Can we gain deprivation? It's very difficult for us. Seems we can't necessarily stomach it. It seems as though what we can certainly provide... Yeah, you need to redo the purifications if you want to go back. It seems like what we can actually acquire is, generally speaking, enlightenment. So let's try and get a bit more of that. It can be useful. I want to get at least 2 of these. Bit of terror. There's a bit more to work with. 2 penances of enlightenment. The spineless curate. If we can get a shift of perspective, we can take care of this man. Let's go grab that. I think that's within our means. There we go. What about curing our curdling? There are still a few flaws in your soul, but matters are improving. We have gained 2 savage secrets and enough experience to improve ourselves. Curing your soul does seem to be enlightening after a fashion. Upon the Gaslight Terrace, the spineless curate, paying his price. That's better, he says, rolling his sleeve to cover the place where the needle went in. I have a warning for you. Meet me in the bell garden. It's harder for them to overhear us there. Don't follow me right away. Wouldn't do for them to see us together. Then he strolls off. Is that all? Is that what he calls gratitude? Have you been duped completely? It remains to be seen whether he will be in the bell garden after all. Let's see. Let's try for it. Purification. Visiting the bell garden. Conversation with a spineless curate. No one else will hear. This is the best garden, he says. Everything orderly. No one dressed up in pheasant outfits or waltzing backward. But here's what I wanted to tell you. Watch out for the tall devil with the rose-colored gloves. He is embezzling the property. And the curate makes a curious gesture with one hand, as if he were winding noodles around a fork. When you look blank, he says, spirit phage. He's taking souls from the patients in secret, before the presiding deviless has a chance at them. I'm afraid he's going to get at me before I finish my term here. I see. That is a bit of something to learn. Certainly. Is it something worth reporting on in the foyer? We could blackmail the Spirifer? Let's go to the Deviless. I'd rather be straightforward about this. You know what he did. She should know also. He's diminishing her supply, after all. You lay out what you know. The rose-gloved devil has been stealing souls for himself and not making proper contracts for them either. Spiriphage, she says, and I warned him. After a moment, her attention returns to you. He had a very different soul when we first met. This is the trouble with friendship among devils. Come back in 5 years' time, and who knows? You may find me engaged in a smuggling operation of my own. What about devil souls? She takes out a bottled soul and sets it on her desk. Where I got this was blazing white in its bottle, supposedly from a poet saint. And now look, rusty pipe water. Devil souls change on their own. Then she adds, not like yours. You knew you shouldn't ask. Devils of Carillion claim to be experts in the assessment and improvement of the soul. They would describe yours as over-rich, cindered, and irrevocably damaged. We have gained a searing enigma by learning about the nature of devil souls. And quite a lot of experience. Ah, yes, If we achieve every kind of penance all at once, we can provide exquisite insight. It can only be done once. And will theoretically gain the Deviless's particular appreciation. This is very worthwhile to do, but it's very difficult because we need to be able to pass a number of difficult checks. We also need to get our soul to be of a certain quality. So, the qualities that we need to... Oh, we can observe the casting out of the Spirifer. He's not allowed to take anything with him. Not a case, not a hat, not even clothing. Presiding Deviless makes him strip down in the courtyard to show that he hasn't got any spare souls tucked into his trousers. The penitents have seen plenty of humiliations lately, but generally inflicted on humans. They watch the Spirifer's progress in a spirit of ill-concealed jubilation. Nude and slumped shoulders, he walked to the port. After he's gone, the presiding Deviless takes a curious two-pronged fork from her desk and flings it into the fountain. The water seethes. Okay. Need to have affiliation with the establishment to progress this story. Let's see. The Bazaar has a bargain for verdant seeds, and Grimoires will allow us to acquire Chorister Nectar, which you will note is exquisitely expensive to actually buy here. We don't really have the money. Oh, I actually wanted to go travel around. So, the qualities that we require... we do have a stained soul. We can now go into the Garden of Insatiable Roses, which was not accessible to us before. And the Sand Garden is the last thing, which requires a clear soul. So let's keep clear soul in mind. The path runs around the side of Carillion to an area that cannot be seen at all from the center. It's a narrow and unassuming path, almost overgrown, and the growth underfoot is soft earth. The footprints of men, women, and devils and goats are printed in the soil, and there, unspoiled by the other tracks, a highly arched footprint with 3 toes. How often, asleep, have you remembered this creature, and how often have you forgotten it waking up? This requires hearts. Those who cross boundaries too often are taught here that those limits have meaning. And the hellish penitent... Supposedly, says the Deviless between bites, the souls of devils are incapable of being refined. You make some adjustments, improve here and there, and then a death or two later and all the work is gone. But I'm determined. If humans can be improved, so can I. I see. Quite difficult to proceed there with my captain as undeveloped as he is, but we have gained new facets for our efforts. Let's see. Spell in prison. A scandal. Below stairs. A mentor. Let's gain a mentor. Maybe hearts and irons? I wanted more veils if possible. I want more hearts for certain as well. I can make do with hearts and irons, it's fine. For a time you enjoyed the favor and protection of a mentor, the blind bruiser. His attempts to distance himself from his larcenous past were of mixed success. His guests were scarred and rough-spoken, and told bloody tales of smuggling and thief oaths, and nameless murderers. We are thusly improved. And I do have other business to try and attend to nearby. We gained almost an entire level and a half checking that area out. I want to take this look a bit to the west, and then I might need to circle back towards Winchester. We have several port reports to turn in, as I forgot to do it last time. So Carillion was certainly enlightening. If we If we do, we might swing back this kind of direction. Ah, that is notably blocked off. Okay. Let's try and see what we can get to. When we run down to one supply left, we want to be about this far away from New Winchester, give or take. We want to have a clear path back, more or less. That's all that's required. This close to the Mother of Mountains, the sky grows cold. The crew dons coats and gloves. The crew don, not dons. The Mother of Mountains. Schwartz's Oath. I think that the Old Tom's Well is probably more like there. So, we won't be finding that anytime soon, I don't think. To the extent that there is busy work to be done by the captain, I may engage in that busy work between streaming sessions. We'll see how things go, so to speak, during the week. The Bonnie Shepherds. I'll try and make sure that the unveiling of truly new stories, such as the first visit to Hybris, things like that, will be part of the stream. I may want to go the other way around this rock, but I have a bit of time to fritter about. I think I can scout at least once more without concern for the supply. Okay, we've located something handily out in front of us. Up over here. Looks like we can circle around as though we were going to Port Avon. We should have enough supply for that. We could actually resupply in Port Avon. Oh. Something to explore? We need a saying. Let's cut just a little northwest. What's this? Huddlescombe. An abandoned signal box. The signal box is shrouded in gray. Close up, you see that the box is covered in delicate webs studded with cocoons. In the blue and white pattern of one bundle, it appears a spider is trapped in a teapot. Inside, beneath a desk covered with rusted levers, is a luggage trunk. Captains in dire need can borrow from the cache inside, but custom dictates they must later replenish it. Let me read at the leisure. The handwriting is poor but legible. Captain MacDonald Ross deposited supplies in the cache, paying off their debt. There's a column for miscellaneous notes. The captain writes of a homestead their locomotive passed when journeying from Port Avon. The buildings were in the style of old London. The nostalgia brought the crew together after a near-disastrous encounter with a chorister bee. I don't need to raid the cache. I will leave. Stokers work vigorously. This place makes them yearn for the riotous camaraderie of New Winchester. The Isambard line. That is quite the story. The Isambard line, my understanding, was an attempt by London to colonize the Reach after a fashion. They sought to attain a dominion over this entire area by having a permanent rail line stretched across the wilds. It failed. The cost was something quite great. Let's sit in at Port Avon. We can restock here. Knowing where you can restock is certainly important. Touch of the skies. Try and keep them busy. Partial success. You administer a stern word and a reminder of their duties. They return to work, but their obsession continues to prey on them. Your locomotive's efficiency suffers as a result. Low fuel, then. It's a good thing we're at port. Quiet day in Port Avon. A pleasant breeze wafts through the village, making even its pricklier residents relax their guard and welcome guests. Only a little, but enough that even a visiting stranger can enjoy their bonhomie. Cheap fuel. Excellent. Bring on a devil. He's a repentant. He's repentant. There can be no harm. A signaler. Ah. Ministry-approved literature is cheaper than usual. I would love to be able to stock up on that, but I really can't. This is about what we can afford, which is a bit of a shame. Bringing on the officer was costly. If I hadn't brought him on, I could do more. Write up a port report, please. I'm going to share some gossip to encourage my welcome. You make for the Nowhere, the local pub, where you can be sure of an audience. Ears bend to overhear your conversation about a London scandal. One resident even buys you a drink on unquestionable honor. Very good. We'll watch a cricket match. Should reduce our terror. The allotments. What does this do for us? The contents of the allotments are unlike familiar vegetables, but it helps to look for the similarities. That bulbous squash is too lumpy, too spotty, too purple to be a marrow, but it is more like a marrow than it is like a cucumber. The little fruits clumped on the serpentine vines are certainly not cherries. Cherries are not hairy, but they are closer to cherries than they are to, say, kiwi fruit or otters. Call it a marrow, then. Call them cherries. It helps somehow. The gardener, mistaking your cognitive reshuffle for hunger, offers you a handful of freshly dug, tapered, tiger-striped roots. Let's call them carrots. Will be done, I think, in the Nowhere Inn. I believe we can deliver one of our trophies. Ah, good. 100 sovereigns to hang this on the wall. What a horrible creature. He twiddles his bushy mustache. A perfect centerpiece. Jenkins, fetch the hoist. Now, I did see something else in the Nowhere Inn. Let's scroll down a little bit. The Rat Brigade. Oi, down here! 3 rats glower up at you from below a table, where spilt beer has trickled down to form a rat-reachable puddle. This will get you chief engineers. A new beginning. The smallest, most scarred rat is called Cinders. She introduces her companions. This, she indicates the rat wearing goggles, is my second. Petronella, our mechanic. She gestures towards a rat with glossy fur. And this is our agent provocateur, Albrecht. The rat inclines his head. We need a locomotive. These battle-hardened rats are all that remain of the Rat Regiment, a mercenary company active in the early days of the Winchester War. Used to be a dozen of us. The best sappers around, says Cinders. Now look at us. Her whiskers twitch. Time for that later. We'll pay, Captain. We have recruited the Rat Brigade. Excellent. Well, now that we have money, we can give them 1 crockery, which does not complete the prospect, but is money. They will sell up to 5 ministry-approved literature per the hold. Palmier and Plenty's is looking for 5, but we can only afford at most 2. I think we'll actually need more supplies and fuel, though. 1 more of each of those. Let's see. I would like to take advantage of this cost, so I'm going to buy 2 of those. I can try to swing by Palmier's and offload those. It won't complete the prospect, but it's a good start. We can make multiple passes at a prospect to try and complete it until we can have more money and more hold space to actually flip this stuff. There was also a crew member to be pulled in at Palmier's. I'm going to read a bit of fiction. The fabulous work has been accepted in a number of publications, including Murgatroyd's Miscellany, Earth and Heaven, and The Seasonal. He's prodigious. What story catches your eye? Let's begin with the eyes of heaven. They burned the charts. For what use were they now? The incorrigible thundered through an empty, unnamed heaven, blown with a frost wind. Ahead, a new sun blazed, the size of a penny through the forward windows. It was a long way to go. I am no longer welcome in Port Avon. My terror has fallen, and I've gained a sky story. That's fine for now. We can make exchanges later to actually be welcome again. So, this begs the question of should we go north or south, and I think instead we should probably... So, we could either take a swing around to this area and then cut back to Magdalene's, or we could go directly back to the company house. I think we're actually just going to go directly back to the company house. I really want to turn in court reports and try and get enough money to get a new heading. Your newly acquired repentant devil is standing most unrepentantly over a body in the hallway. You don't recognize the dead. You haven't seen this person before. One of your crew? But the deceased is no one you know, a stranger on your locomotive. Peculiar luggage you brought on board, says one of the crew when some others have gathered. Wouldn't have thought it would fit in your little bag. First, clean up. It won't do to leave the body in the hall. Then your repentant devil can explain himself. He's still got the blood on his cuffs. He looks younger than most devils, but is significantly older. His gaze is blank and yellow, a wall against speculation. He grooms his sideburns artfully, and knows how to be tactful with less seasoned members of the crew. He was a stowaway, explains the devil indifferently. He's been stalking me for more than a month. I thought I'd lost him when I came aboard, then he turned up in my quarters. From the body, he's lifted a clinking bag of souls. Perhaps he was sent to bribe me rather than to kill me. He tilts his head to consider the soul collection. Apparently thinks I'm a cheap hire. If so, the devil's gaze reverts to you. I regret to say this is probably not the last time this happens. I may be destined to attract negative attention. He's been giving you meaningful glances. He must want something. He laughs when approached. Oh dear, a little obvious perhaps. His gaze is amused and flickers with intensity. I have an idea that might be beneficial for us both. I'd like to improve the lives of the workers at the home office on the Avid Horizon, if you don't mind permitting me a little shore leave. Okay, so he can do some things at the Avid Horizon. I'll have to get there a lot later. Caduceus, caged chorister bee. Ooh, looks like you'll need 2 gourds of chorister nectar and 2 caddies of dried tea to continue his plotline. Now, about the state of my soul. He smiles blandly. It is not worth much in its present condition, he says plainly. Too flawed. I could cure you of all that if I had time, and if I cared, and if it were not just as easy to take any of a dozen other innocent souls in a better state of repair. If you want it improved, you might, I suppose, try your luck at Carillion. Okay. I need to recall what I required for, what's this? Your navigator sidles up to you. You been keeping up with the dailies, Captain? He unfurls a yellowing newspaper. Your passenger from Port Prosper has her face splashed across the front page beneath an impressive and improbable list of charges. The Ministry of Public Decency is offering a hefty reward. Criminal, eh? No need for rash action. Your passenger is a wanted fugitive. She does not know that you know. A quick change of course back to Port Prosper is entirely possible. A swift extradition for her, a well-deserved reward for you. Or you could continue on to her destination. Who knows? She may have reformed. You may be sympathetic. If she's on the run, she may be willing to pay handsomely for her transportation. That's interesting. I haven't encountered that before. Now, the princess wanted to hear sky stories. Let's prove ourselves a fit confidant. Thrilled by your tales, the princess invites you to her quarters. I have a secret, she says, removing her tiara before donning a second, more expensive tiara. I am Queen Victoria's daughter, she says. I trust your discretion. It's a considerable ask. This must be the captivating princess, the daughter of Victoria who dwells in a miasma of rumors of excess, ranging from red honey to cannibalism. A half-asphyxiated starling has somehow found its way aboard. It flies to her hand. She pets it gently. She constantly attracts birds. One is traveling to broaden one's mind before one takes on a new role. It would be a delight to meet with the engineers who keep the eternal bell of Perdurance tick-tocking away. She smiles. You find yourself outside. The Incognito Princess seeks something new at Perdurance. Okay. A lot of the people you bring on board require that you go to London to complete their stories. Perdurance is in Albion. So, getting all the way to Port Prosper to turn over this convict is quite the tall ask. I'm probably not going to worry about it, just because it's a really long way to go. Unless I find myself heading back up that way. In terms of officers, we still require a quartermaster, and we have 2 individuals who can fulfill the role of chief engineer. 2 hearts, 6 irons. 2 irons, 6 fails. Affiliation with establishment, affiliation with villainy. All right. Now, bringing on extra officers beyond the requirement of having somebody equipped in the first place to each individual job is only useful insofar as you get to explore more stories. Stories are profitable, and they advance your character's understanding of the world. So generally speaking, if I have an option to bring on a new officer, I may bring them on even if I already have somebody fulfilling a task, but I might prioritize it a little less. So I still have a need for crockery and chorister nectar. It would be excellent if I could pull in additional ministry-approved literature. Although the bargain that I took advantage of earlier to get some ministry-approved literature is likely not to be there if I come back. A little tricky, but that's the way of things. Services rendered, 400 sovereigns. Turning in port reports is very stable. I want a ministry stamped permit. 2 gratitude to get 1 permit. That will allow me to get into Albion. An invitation to Perdurance, that will be helpful. Favors with the other group at the Victory Hall can get you different rewards. I just wanted these rewards for now. The 2 of them are competitors. You can choose who to side with, and there are different impacts on the story. Furthermore, if your captain dies, the balance of power shifts a little bit back more towards neutral, but the balance of power that is occurring in the Reach is a kind of continuous issue between your various captains. Might as well pull in a new Winchester while we're around. Let's see. We have about 400. We could pick up a canning station or additional crew quarters. Interesting. Got munitions and hours banked as well. I think I really would like to bring on either a mining array or a canning station. I think we're going to go with a mining array here. We can just kind of equip that like so. There we go. There are other ships that have different slots that we can get to later. Taking a look at the engine yard, you can see the slot readouts over here. For instance, this Parzival class courser, it has bigger hull, less hold, less crew space, and the fuel efficiency, I believe that's less. But it has a heavy weapon slot instead of a light weapon slot. It's also got less armor and 2 of these bridge slots. 1 utility. The Pelennor class trader is very similar to the baseline vessel, except that it has a little bit less crew space and an additional utility slot, which I find to be very useful. A lot of these are kind of similar in cost. The Parzival class courser is actually fairly cheap. The trader and the escort are both the same cost. This one has an extra armor slot, a lot more hull, and is otherwise pretty identical. It's a very sturdy ship. And then, of course, you've got, like, the crazy stuff. An infernal beast of brass and steam, furnished with indulgent luxury with carpet thick enough to lose your toes in. This guy is flippin' stacked. It's huge. It's crazy. It's really expensive. There are other vessels you can buy, as well as other weapons and things, in other locations. For instance, here, we can only see things up to green quality. There are blue items that I've seen. I haven't seen better than blue. I haven't played the game long enough. But there are other things. Okay, so I wanted to keep searching, possibly for Titania, and maybe over, maybe another trip to the Inconceivable Circus. So I'm gonna do one last little stretch through here, I think. And then after that, it will probably be time for sleep. Or at the very least, a sort of repose somewhat similar to sleep. My voice is getting just a tad hoarse. Maybe a bit of tea before bed. Go over well. I got some, I believe I acquired some lemon ginger tea that I find to be quite lovely. Bit of honey with that. We're set. We didn't come out with a lot of supply. It doesn't look like there's likely to be any way south through there. My expectation about the well is that I would have to go along this kind of stretch to get there. I think that's about what the spawn pattern for the well tends to be. Let's see, I did come through here once before. Let's try a straight easterly cut for a bit. We can acquire additional supplies at Palmyra and Plenty's, but we cannot acquire additional fuel there. The undergrowth draws in. Calls of unknown gargantuan beasts rattle your engine. Here, the reach runs wild. Generally speaking, the map is split up into kind of quadrants or fifths, and that's where a lot of the randomization occurs. The locations you can encounter are locked to certain quadrants. Ah, we may find crew here. Yes. Same thing that's happened before. Ouch. Took a bit of a scrape there. Took 2 damage. The interminable Winchester War. Seems as though we've got quite the wall here. It can take quite a bit of sailing, quite a bit of fuel and supply to get an adequate map of the stars. Let's see. It is getting quite late, isn't it? I hadn't exactly lost track of time. I had meant to start earlier so that I could try and fit in a full 4 hours. But my start wasn't quite that early. Bit of a search. What have we got? Something out there? Let's go for it. We can afford to, I think. We can't make exact judgments about such things. There's a find. Drilled some hours. Picked up a bit of a pursuer. Seems as though he's not quite a good navigator. Bit of hull repair salvaged up. Seems as though we are in a rough part of town. A very rough part of town. We do not want to linger here. I think one of these areas... Yeah. This looks like the spawn point for marauders. Ha! Scavenge tea. What is all of this? The Battle of Culverston. Well, if you have a ship, rather, if you have a train that is well suited to combat, this is definitely a spot to hang out. You can cut on through there and blast some other ships apart. And get a whole lot of salvage out of it. Excuse me. There's the obelisk that was being referred to, Nilsson's Point. We should be able to recruit the amiable vagabond now. A signaler. I think we already have a signaler. We do. Might as well have two. When you accept him aboard, he pulls a grimy bottle of something opaque and unidentifiable from his inner coat pocket and takes a long celebratory swig. I hope you're not having second thoughts already, he says, and roars with laughter. He has no luggage to speak of, just the bindle over his shoulder, and a fiddle in a battered leather case. Once he's slung both onto his bed, he heads to the galley and starts performing card tricks and telling ribald jokes at the crew. Most find him charming. Several make their apologies and abscond. Onwards. Very good. Hearts, veils, affiliation with Bohème. I actually tend to prefer those benefits. I think I'm largely trying to value hearts over irons here. And listen to a story of things past. Charity is a crime, punishment severe. Only costs 1 sovereign. Scouts, it rasps hopefully, its voice like a cleaver on a whetstone. We trade scouts for things and stories. We're leaving soon. I'm going to trade my Searing Enigma. Requires a mirror of 45 or more. Mirrors of 45 or more. You actually have that? I don't recall. It's fine. Mr. Menagerie extends a long finger to prod the dozing guinea pig. "Oh," says the cavy, rubbing sleep from its eyes with the front paw. "I do beg your pardon." It sits upright to address you. "Sir Lionel at your service. Am I to understand that you are in need of a valiant scout? If so, I am the very pig. Just point me in the direction, I will sally forth on my trusty bat." Mr. Menagerie seems somewhat relieved to pass Sir Lionel on and begins to gather up its things. And Mr. Menagerie is gone. You only get that much opportunity. New arrivals at the circus. A fire burns by the obelisk where newcomers mingle. None of them seem to know what drew them here, save that they had nowhere else they knew they should be. They trade stories and the last of their liquor from their flasks, finding solace here for reasons they can't even seem to explain. Nope. No dice. They all drift back to the obelisk. Quick report. Buy some tickets. I will attend another performance. It's probably going to be disappointing. Yes, our Sky Stories and Visions of the Heaven remain unchanged at 1. Yeah, the same things happened. Nod with familiarity when you pass. I think that did not proceed onwards. No, here we go. We can now speak to the ringmaster. He puts on a good face for the customers, but he's clearly troubled. The ringmaster looks relieved to see a familiar face. "Oh, thank God. We've got a show to put on, and one of my biggest acts is throwing a tantrum. No. He pauses, toying with his exquisitely managed mustache as he looks you up and down. "I don't suppose you've ever considered stepping into the ring yourself?" I will offer my services as a clown." Dressed in motley and with a grease paint face, you do your best to entertain. The audience laughs at your pratfalls, some of them even deliberate. Afterwards, the ringmaster claps you on the shoulder. "Excellent. Well, terrible. Never do that again, but please, come and see me behind the tents." You're welcome everywhere here. The carnies nod to you as you pass. Beyond the performers and a permanent audience, the circus is deserted. Everyone keeps to their quarters unless they're practicing the show. Despite the calliope music, the mood back here is closer to that of a mausoleum. The ringmaster is sat on a fat cushion, idly shuffling a worn pack of playing cards. He smiles wearily at you. "I asked the cards about you." He draws from the top of the deck, sets them on the table. "They say you can help." He then places them back into the deck, and bids you shuffle and draw for yourself. The cards are the same. He smiles the same weary smile. Looks like they haven't changed their minds. Okay, he will give me commissions to take care of things. 8 of bats. The magician's props are in need of fixing, ringmaster sighs. Okay. We need to revisit a reclusive carpenter in Port Avon. Let's see. I think we can only take on one of these at a time. We can talk to the individual people. We go back to the ringmaster and work on it from there. No, we can just talk to person after person. So there's a series of sub-stories here where you have to assist each of these individuals one by one. I can still try to recruit crew. No. There's no penalty for this other than you have a limited opportunity to do so. So, there's that. I think we can still remove some terrors by visiting the amusements. Yes. Circus staff have learned your name. The circus staff have hinted that the ringmaster might care for a word. Yeah, there's not very much more to do here. I'm going to turn over the approved literature I have. And in the big top shop, we'll pick up a bit of supply. Alright. And this is probably a good time for us to call it before we cross over the threshold to midnight. Thank you for joining and venturing with us across the skies. We'll be back at this probably around next week, perhaps the same time. I might vary this up. I will try and see about getting it on the schedule, or at the very least informing people I know of what I'm going to do. Have a good evening. I hope we wander again soon. Good night.